May 1st, 2024. How the crap did that happen? That was abrupt. That was abrupt. Feels abrupt. I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those. It really is. It really is. Good morning, y'all. I hope you're doing well. It's a heck of a show today. It is, as every Wednesday is. When's a good day for a Revolution Wednesday with our good friend, the immense Teace Snyder. Yeah. Your presence, sir. That's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah. Yeah. You look very hale and fit. That I'm not trying to. Your intellect looms, sir. It
My
does.
man boobs like point out to the side.
Intellect. I'm not.
just-
you know
not
what?
just
Just
forward
because
trajectory,
you're
it's like
self-conscious, don't take it out on me,
360 man
pal.
boobs.
That's not how this is gonna work today. It's
Guess you
not. We
said
got Vinny here. Yeah. So it's gonna be a lot. I'm fucking with you, buddy. You're
Okay,
big brains. Big brains.
You touched a sensitive spot. I'll cry about it later in between like clips, and then let some repressed
If
anger
you're in
out
the
by the end of
greater
it.
Edmonton area and you would like to touch Teace's sensitive spots rather than him having them done to his ego, please email the show. We'll arrange it.
No, that's fine. Just pay up.
Yeah. We'll handle it. We will. We'll take care of it. You guys, and I'm assuming Chris will be along at some point. I didn't get a heads up that he wouldn't be. He probably rearranged absolutely every single piece of audio and video equipment and cable and stuff that he has again, because this is the daily. And yeah. But I'm sure we'll see him soon. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning in New Zealand, so I feel like a dick already for doing 3 minutes of intro. But broadcasting legend. This guy's interviewed everyone and has just an amazing body of work that he's produced. Vinny Eastwood on the program. What's up, my friend? How you doing?
Well, my standard response is I'm borderlining on fabulous, maybe even a little bit fantastic. And I'm very glad to be here. And from your intro, which was very long, which I enjoyed, actually. I like a long intro. All the ladies do. And there's an element of flair and fabulous nature that you bring to the show, and I'm kind of like, this is going to be good.
I feel like it's going to be fun. Yeah, I feel like it's going to be fun. Like I say, it's 2 o'clock in the morning in New Zealand. Thank you for hanging out with us at this late hour for you. It's 7 o'clock.
By the way, I hope you don't mind if I smoke in here.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go off camera at some point because I'm gonna take a dab, but I have the little pen right here that you'll see me pull on once or twice. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
We're good with it. No, you be who you is, my friend.
Sorry. Well, like I say, it's your show. Let's go.
Yeah. So, all right, I was listening yesterday to an older conversation that you were having with Pasio. And it was you went, I mean, all over the place. Look at Teace grin. I love it. I do. But one of the things you guys were talking about was sort of the state of the independent media, as it were. This is like a year ago or something, and I was recently on tinfoil hat with my buddy Sam. I was trying to talk to him about the same thing, and I just wanted to get your thoughts jumping into it. What as to a year or so down the road from that conversation, where you feel, especially in light of a 7 or so month live streamed ethnic cleansing and making people feel one way or the other about that, and it's you guys have a fairly, I don't know, spineless weft puppet prime minister next to another spineless weft puppet prime minister. Just where do you feel like the independent media is currently?
Okay, so to put this into context, New Zealand's alternative media is very different to the American alternative media
Yeah, it's
because
like
of because of where it comes from. American alternative media comes out of the American spirit. Don't tread on me. My expression is given to me by God. I can do whatever I want so long as I'm not hurting anybody or damaging their private property. The New Zealand alternative media comes from I just don't understand why government's not a good thing anymore. And I've just recently lost my faith in them. And I don't understand what the threat is. And I want everybody else to like just see what I'm looking at. There's something wrong, isn't there? We don't know what it is, but there must be something wrong. And everybody just look at it and think about it and that sort of thing, as opposed to the American spirit, which is to do something about it, right? And this mentality, I think it's like, I'm the old guy. All right, I'm 39 years old, and I'm the old guy. Okay, when in 2008, when the rest of these people were voting or working or going out and getting laid or partying, I was telling the truth. I was broadcasting with the likes of David Icke and Jordan Maxwell and G. Edward Griffin, the real founders of this movement, because you need to sit around the campfire with your elders, as it was in ancient times, if you want to ascend as a young boy and be raised into a man. And so since 2008 till today, what's that, like 16 years? I've been doing this and being raised by the best in the business. These people who have just recently woken up. Okay, now the wake up is a very long process. We talked about it on the Rise Above podcast, and they coined it as called doing your 10K, your 10,000 hours. Have you stopped working and focusing on that for a moment and done 10,000 hours of podcasts, shows, documentaries, and in-life activism, where you have had a radical realignment from your working life and having the beers and watching the football to now you know, not because you think or you've seen a few videos or watched a show or something you admire or something, but you know from your own experience and from your vast research that everything that you've ever been told, to a large degree, especially about yourself, is a lie perpetrated to basically make you stop being a threat to the system. The system is predicated upon hierarchical structure, and anybody who's an entrepreneur, and that the definition of that in a working fashion is somebody who does something that nobody else can do and does it better than anybody. Okay, if you're an entrepreneur, they'll call you ADHD. They'll say that you're depressed or mentally ill or something like that. And that's because you're simply being underutilized. You're talented beyond what anybody else can really conceive, and you're being underutilized. And that's what fucking drives you towards drugs. That's what drives you towards women. That's what drives you towards all of these self-destructive patterns, because you're running through a series of responses to trauma that you've had about not being recognized and not doing the things that you're really born to do here. And the only person who can really change that situation is you. And you need to build something that is worthy, something that is useful, something that is actually worth your fucking time. I've created 6,500 videos. That's close to 20,000 hours of interviews with the world's brightest minds. And when I look at the alternative media, who have only just recently awakened, who haven't done their 10,000 hours, I see them doing the exact same thing that I did when I was in their position. When you've got all this fame, you've got all this recognition, you're the new kid on the block, and psychopaths start infiltrating you. And you start fucking having to deal with all of the incredible amount of abuse that comes from people. Because as soon as you start broadcasting the truth, particularly in this environment, is much, much worse than when I started. Everybody's got their attention on you, and not all of it is good attention. So they're going through the classic trauma responses of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. Most of them are at the anger stage of this thing, or the bargaining stage. Very few of them I've seen actually get really, really depressed. One is close, all right, a woman who does truth bombs, and very few of them are anywhere near acceptance of what they're dealing with. Okay, that's the reason for my show intro. If I may beg your indulgence, and mine, of course.
It's a 3-hour
Welcome.
show, bro. I got time.
Yeah, welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and hermaphrodites, my fellow slaves of the global plantation. The Vinny Eastwood show is bad news. It's like the news, but so much worse. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child trafficking Satanists is Vinny's jokes. Now, to sort of explain where that intro comes from and how long it's taken, and I wouldn't say that it's really good or it's perfect or something like that, but it does encapsulate what my show and what my spirit is really about. Now, when I first went out, it's about destroying the enemies of mankind and waking up people and all of that kind of stuff. But as you start to grow and develop and learn from your elders, you start to recognize something. It's not so simple. It's not going to be over tomorrow or the week after or the month or the year. You have to do this for life. The people who have dedicated their lives to destroying what little spirit there really is left in mankind, to subjugate the psychology, the spirits, and the physicality of our entire species, are not playing any games here. They are very serious, and they are lifelong committed to this cause, and they need to be matched equally of that cause. Do we have anywhere near the organization, the resources, or the dedication that these people have? These are living embodiments of demonically possessed psychopathic individuals, right? They only need between 2 and 4 hours sleep a night, and then they've got 20 to 22 hours of waking scumbaggery, unrelenting at their purpose. We can't compete with that. Physically, we can't. We need sleep to recharge our consciousness. Just like in the Russian sleep experiments, when they deprived these gulag frickin' remnants of sleep for nearly a month, and they started eating themselves. They started eating their own faces. They started screaming so loud that their vocal cords audibly snapped in half and they couldn't talk anymore. Sleep is really frickin' important. But if you don't have a conscience to keep you up, you don't need it quite as much. It's like the old joke. What's the best part about being on methamphetamine? It's only 12 more sleeps till Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Right? and so when we talk about this kind of thing, people who are new to this game, they don't understand what it takes to fight a living war that never ends. When you understand that everything has already been rendered, like in the Terminator, everything for a truther, somebody who's really done their 10,000 hours, everything in the world has been rendered to rubble, and you see nothing. Nothing is out there. Everything has been destroyed because it was all an illusion to begin with. And now you're trying to eke out a living in these ruins of a society and fight an eternal war against machines who are devoid of spirits. They can't be reasoned with, they can't be negotiated with, they are relentless, and they absolutely will not stop until you are dead. Knowing that that is your enemy, knowing that this is your life, how do you deal with that? Living, right? And stay alive in your head and in your heart. And the humor is the best way that I've found. This is the way that we heal. This is how we raise our vibrations when we deal with these terrible realities that we are not cowardly enough to turn away from.
Yeah, and just to, I mean, on top of that, in terms of working to eke out a living and that kind of what we have to do, what they are born to do is effectively work out a multi-generational bloodline fucking trauma mind control fucking plot to maintain control over an unwitting population. That's their work, that's their job. That's the, you know, effectively, if you stop doing that job, you get disinherited, cut off. What so if you're not good at your job, if you're not successful at your job, then you do fail and you do get kicked off of the party boat, and that usually cuts your longevity quite short. Teace?
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's one of those things where I've been doing it for a good 30,000, 40,000 hours at this point. So it's like the wheel keeps on turning. And I'm trying to be innovative in the sense of what I think is personally, because like I'm an artist, I think the catalyst that's missing is brilliant artwork that is at present supplemented with predictive programming coming out of an entertainment industry that's actually an entrainment industry. And because we constantly turn back to that, then we aren't able to create the real paradigm shifting presence or gifts that we can give to the world to allow them to come to a resonant harmony with the depth of reality. And so as long as we continue to turn to their outputs for our input, we're never going to do anything but put our heads up our asses. And I'm curious kind of what some of your like actual real world solutions are so that we don't have to go another 10 or 20 or 30,000 hours ourselves. Because at this point in the game, the technocratic overreach kind of like shortens the time frame that we have to work with. We've got more distribution. One second.
Speaking of short, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Just saying, we've got more distribution now, but the time frame shorter, and we've got more censorship and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just kind of curious, what's your sentiment on what we can do with where we're at?
Okay, well, taking care of the very basics at heart, there's a number of things that need to be happening because I think Stuart Swerdlow, formerly out of the Montauk Project, where they did super soldier sexual abuse and stuff like that on him. He was kind of very good to me when I was first starting out. And he was talking about how all of these things that you deal with psychologically, they have an impact. And the most important survival tool that people mostly forget about in a survival situation, it isn't toilet paper, it isn't fresh water, it isn't guns and ammunition, it's your mind. If you can think, you can survive. And so that's, first of all, do you know how to think, right? If we can just set that up to a large degree, if we're talking about the long game here, because having to tell the difference between a fact and fiction. So in journalism, you do the basic 6 questions: who, what, when, where, why, and how. Now, if you're talking to somebody and they're able to give you answers to those questions about that particular topic, like I could ask Mark Passio those questions about anything that he's talking about, and he'd be able to rattle off the answers like that, because he knows what he's talking about. It's factual.
He'd need more. If we're talking about what Passio's going to do, but yeah.
I would hurt myself if I was actually to do it justice. So let's just take that as a given. So when we talk about delaying a fact from fiction, it's very similar to how you measure dimensions in 3-dimensional space, because we live in 3-dimensional space. You know, it's got forward, back, top, down, left, right, just like every fact has a who, what, when, where, how, and why. Okay, this is how we determine these things. Now, if people are not giving you straight answers, on the other hand, about the who, what, when, where, how, and why, you can safely be assured that whatever they're talking about, they either don't know what they're talking about. It could be a fact, but they certainly don't know what they're talking about. And that means that you've got a problem there, because that'll create confusion. Now, the intelligence agencies were predicated on the concept of creating confusion. Like when the OSS was created during World War II, it was to confuse the enemy. At the time, it was Nazi Germany. And so they would hijack trains full of mail that was bound for Nazi high command, open all the letters, read them, change little details around, reseal the letters perfectly, and then send that fucking train back into Berlin. These people wouldn't know where their troops were. They wouldn't know if they could trust the guy down the hall. They were so confused that when the Allied invasion came at D-Day, they had no idea when or where, right? And so that's what happened after World War II, is the idea became to confuse the enemy, but the enemy changed to us, the world's consciousness. Specifically those of us who are actually intelligent enough to realize that there's any kind of agenda to confuse us specifically, so that we wouldn't know who our friends are, we wouldn't know what reality is, and so therefore, if we don't even know who our enemy is, and we don't know who our friends are, and we don't know what's going on, how could we ever mobilize to defeat them?
Hang on, man. You're
concept.
You're not convinced that that your neighbor is out to get you, and that the Vladimir Putin and probably the Chinese and, let's say, Venezuelan Hezbollah aren't the real enemy? Because I mean, that's just it's so easy. It's so easy. Wouldn't that be you just check out entirely and go watch some dumb shit on Netflix and be like, oh, the Russians, and you know.
Well, you know, this is the thing about the New World Order, is that they tell the truth sometimes. And when they came up with Agenda 21, they had a global to local program. You start local, then you go global, right? So Jordan Peterson said, clean your room, right? Is your room clean? Then start freaking worrying about the world. There was this guy who tried to change the world one time, and he failed because the world was too big. So he decided he would try and change his country instead. He messed that up too, you know, couldn't do it. And so he tries to change his family. His family wouldn't listen to him. So if he'd instead changed himself, his family would have seen his example, and they would have helped him maybe change his city. City could have helped to change the country, the world. It all starts from within. So whatever myriad of threats are there, you know, it doesn't really matter, because it's difficult to put a label on them. G. Edward Griffin called them the group. Okay, and he said that this group operates under a principle called rings within rings within rings. The top ring is the people who are actually the members of the group. And what they do is they start down a second ring underneath them, and they tell that ring that they are actually the central arbiter of it. And that's the only thing, like the buck stops with them. And they create all of these splinter groups. Like, say, well, each of the 13 members creates 13 splinter groups that each of those members each think they're the one, and then they create 13 splinter groups in here. So this way you've got every single council that's international in scope that your parliamentarians belong to, like Parliamentarians for Global Action, who have a central committee to end national sovereignty and have it ruled by supranational bankers, right? This is all publicly. And they have this plan for the world. And so just basically getting right with that plan, how to live around it. The most, I think, poignant authority in the world on this subject would be Stefan Versteppen and his work on urban guerrilla warfare, which has very little to do with any kind of actual warfare. What it is a set of tips and tricks for you to organize a community that is below the radar, so that even if you are living in a high-tech global police state that watches everything you do and everything you're going and has checkpoints everywhere and stuff like that, it shows you the ways that you can find the loopholes, you can find the gaps, that you can organize people below the radar to provide for your needs, educating your children and looking after them, doctors, lawyers, and foodstuffs, energy, and so on and so forth. All of these people can be organized below the radar so that when things become so totalitarian that blah, 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 you've actually got a network that you're already working on so that you can survive this. It's going to be 7 years of survival, he predicts, because the principle is when a predator has no other competition, what do they choose to become predatory against? Their competition. Okay, so he predicts that what's going to happen is that those people who know how to survive, know how to get around checkpoints, know how to network below the radar, will have to probably live that way in an underground manner for about 7 years before these sociopathic, narcissistic, criminal psychopaths kill each other. And then when their system collapses, we'll be able to come out and return to some sort of normalcy, because then we'll be able to tell everybody the one thing that you never want to hear from a conspiracy theorist. We told you so.
So it's an interesting point of reference, and I have his book. I wonder if the way in which they've done the rings within rings, kind of like front-end proxy class, which John Titus regards as chew toys, kind of like chew toys that you throw to a dog. That's when we're looking at proprietaries like Gates, Bezos, Zuckerberg, Musk, all these dipshits. I wonder if this go around, they're not going to give us the illusion that it's an easier fight than it actually is, so that we'll ostensibly presume that we've been successful, rather than necessarily slipping into the doom and gloom mold. As long as we're in front of computers, we're in essence the data algorithmic input that they need to enslave us later on down the line. Because I see the old folks like hitting it in that way, and it's like, yo, it's going to play out like this. And I'm like, you guys don't get it. They're playing a more sophisticated brand right now. As long as we're in front of a screen, we're doing what they need.
You're right. And that's the other part of it as well, because number one, there's self-preservation, and that's where Stefan Versteppen's techniques come in. However, number two is going out and actually having an effect at slowing or stopping the system in another thing. And that's where the late Rosa Koire's tactic comes in, called the D-Delphi technique. In the Delphi technique, when they're running council meetings, parliamentary discussions, and things of that nature, or a Jehovah's Witness meeting, or a cult meeting for that matter, they all use this exact same technique to limit discussion to exactly what they want to talk about. The anti-Delphi technique is been very well used in Rosa Koire's time, challenging Agenda 21 protocols in her area in Los Angeles, or California rather. And I think the tactic here is you have to be proactive. Find these council meetings where any of these decisions or anything like that are being made. Like, for example, do you know your city councillor's name? I don't. Do you know when their meetings are? I don't. And that's bad. right? We should know these things. We should know who these people are. We should freaking know where they live, you know, kind of thing. We should know it intimately and be able to go in there and disrupt. But how do you disrupt something that's being done using the Delphi technique that is specialized and works so well? Okay, first of all, you know, when you go to a meeting with a group of people and you all sit together, wrong. You go to a group and you talk to them beforehand and you come up with your tactic. You don't arrive together. You arrive one by one by one with a few minutes, and you don't even look at each other when you enter, and you sit as far apart from each other in the meeting room as you possibly can. When the time inevitably comes to discuss, ask questions, vote, or something of that nature, the first person in the corner stands up and tells the truth. When the Delphi technique starts getting deployed and people start to shout you down, and the commissioner says, "Oh, we'll get to that later," that is when the second person on the other end of the hall stands up and says, "You haven't answered that gentleman's question. I want to hear what he's got to say." And when they shout him down, the third person stands up, and so on and so forth, so that it actually starts to influence the crowd. It makes the crowd and the counselors think that you are absolutely the majority, that everybody is feeling the same sensation, and boom, you have completely derailed their meeting. Suddenly you've got credibility. Suddenly you're controlling the meeting. Suddenly they don't get what they want. If this was happening at every single council meeting the world over, their entire machine would just go to a close. Throw your bodies on the levers and the wheels, because you've got to make it stop, and that takes time. And the only people that are actually interested into it are 60 plus. Okay, you go to any truth meeting in the entire freaking world, I guarantee you the majority of those people there have been slaves their entire life, working their entire life, doing something that hasn't freaking inspired them whatsoever. And it's only once they've really retired, once they've had a time to research, that they suddenly start to realize who they are and what they value and what they really fight for. But by then it's too late to offer their energy or their creativity. All they've got is their wisdom and their knowledge of 50 years of frickin' lies. Right? We're disabled, like on a grand scale. So at the same time as, yes, we've got to fight. Yes, we've got to delay this as much as we possibly can, win it if we possibly can, because everything in the entire world is really riding on it. The future of humanity, the amount of data, the amount of information, the amount of wisdom that is being deleted even as we speak. Imagine if it's all gone, 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 and that no subsequent generation for 1,000 years would ever come to this level of knowledge again after the purge, right? Imagine the dark future that would hold, a new dark age ruled through technology, not by a church. That's what we're up against, and that's what we're fighting against.
The city council meetings here, and there are several like the ones that you described. There are also, it's become over the last several years a style of performance art and protest, but mostly performance art, to go to city council meetings and engage in what's, you know, culture jamming, right? Where, you know, you're the main attraction. It's not like there's people that are actually trying to get answers out of the city council in most major cities, and a lot of smaller ones that are connected to military bases or are tech hubs, and employ people at various parts of, you know, the military industrial complex, media, that, so on and so forth, academia, these sorts of things. The city councils get emails and legislation submitted to them from all of these, you know, federal organizations, NGOs, think tanks, so on and so forth. Here's what the city is doing. Here's how you're going to transition your city into a smart city. And so what the city council functions as largely is a rubber stamp organization where people get to skim a little bit, and they might be able, if they rubber stamp hard enough and they don't get caught fucking up early, or they prove to be highly agreeable, then they have a career trajectory. And you might get a couple of rabble rousers within your city council that do slow things down, and they give people long enough time to push back hard enough over the course of several years to where the city council is like, okay, this is just something we can't do right now. And if for some reason they try to just broad stroke approve measures, there are people in local communities that usually mount a decent resistance, you know, and gain wins along the way. I'm not saying they win every time. I'm not saying they win every time. They get wins along the way.
In war, nothing is certain. The only thing that is certain is that if you believe that there is no winning, then your defeat is certain. You know, fight the enemy on where they don't expect it. You know, where they expect you to show up as council meetings and things of that nature, they don't expect you to accost them at the supermarket. Okay, they don't expect them to show up and give them a hard time when they're picking their kids up from school or stuff like this. It has to be personal because they've made it personal. Okay, they don't have any limits. They don't have any boundaries that they won't cross, and they need to understand that there is a consequence to that, and that people won't stand for it. They need to know every day and fear, like we do, what is coming and what is going to happen to them should they fail. Right? And that was something that I think Rachel Vaughan, formerly satanically ritually abused by her father, who was a doctor and a high-level Freemason, cut her with a curved blade so he could rape the wound, right? This kind of like dark kind of shit. And when they were sacrificing one of her friends at an underground temple, when the child's life went away, one of the shadows in the corner of the room flickering in the light got up, and it was in the form of Apollo, and it walked through the room, and she saw all of these satanic, horrible, frickin' disgusting, evil people. She saw their faces, and she saw something that she'd never seen before. Fear, right? And it hit me. That's why these people are so freaking dedicated. That's why they'll tell any lie. That's why they'll render any vile abuse and hatred and any form of corruption, because they know what's waiting for them should they fail. They know what their masters will do to them eternally if they mess up. Right? That's freaking the power of fear. They've got the power of fear in them. And I think I've lost my fear, right? That was the reason I got into this, the whole reason for the Vinny Eastwood show and Mr. News and guerrilla media and getting out there and exposing scumbaggery and helping all these activists get their voices heard. It was fear. I was absolutely terrified of what was coming, and I couldn't think or live a normal life and live with that fear without doing something about it. I think that's where everybody has to come to in their own way, is accept that fear and maintain control of yourself.
Yeah, so the point that you make about what happens to them if they fail, yeah, it's true. At this juncture, I think the same thing is going to happen to them if they succeed, because the way Passio describes it is that it's a chain of obedience. And when you sell yourself to this system, it invariably ends up eating its own. There's kind of a quote, which is that a man often meets his destiny on the road he takes to avoid it. So you're very correct. Yeah, you're very correct that you need to basically face your fear. And if you don't, well, guess what? It's going to hit you in the rear and you're going to have to face it in a more uncomfortable manner down the road. So,
that's right.
Yeah.
I came to this realization last night that I'm a coward. Right? I really have accepted the fact. I let fear rule my life and rule my actions. But even though I'm a coward, even though I was afraid, I still went out there and protested lockdown and got myself arrested. I still went through 28 months of court. I still had bail conditions and all of that kind of stuff, even though I was afraid of that very thing happening to me, right? Because it was the right thing to do, I believed at the time. And I think my stand that I took there, I've met a couple of people, and it gave them hope. It gave them somebody to look towards, that there was actually somebody out there who was willing to take a stand, regardless of what the consequences for taking that stand actually was. That's what gives people hope. That's what gives people encouragement. That's what Mark Passio taught me. Encourage means to give courage to others. So that's the thing is what was it? The experiments where they had people being electrocuted by, and oh, sorry, I'll start again. Harvard University wanted to figure out why the Nazis were able to do what they did. Okay, how did they convince everybody to be so brutal and so vicious to their own people? 7 million Germans got exterminated before, Nazi Germany came to its full Third Reich capacity. Not many people really know that. And there's that many people with a conscience that you've got to get rid of if you want to have a totalitarian society. But this experiment that they did at Harvard University was wondering how authority was used in that way. So they had somebody in a white lab coat telling you to electrocute this other person every time that they got a question wrong. Bit of smoked glass, they can't tell somebody's on there. It's an actor on the other side pretending to be electrocuted, sometimes pretending to be dead, because these electrocutions would get so big that it would kill an ordinary human being. And they found that 90% of people, just because a person in a position of authority told you to electrocute somebody until they were dead, they would do it. Now, the second part of the experiment is not quite so highly publicized, is that when they showed that 10% of people who refused to the next ones coming in and taking the test, they found that close to 100% of them, having seen somebody saying no to authority, had the courage to do it as well. That's why they stamped me out and Billy TK so viciously. I mean, I've got a video that I'm still working on about, we were talking about the alternative media in New Zealand earlier. Every single one of them, including me and Billy TK, has had the police after them. They're currently under charges, or they've been raided, or they've had their equipment taken off them, or they've been assaulted and are now dealing with injuries and things like that, or they've been deplatformed, or they've been censored, or something like that. There's almost no exception. Okay, everybody in the New Zealand media in this day and age is under relentless attack because of their ability to give hope, because of their ability to give courage. That's, I think, a really important thing to note when people start talking about visceral concepts of hope and change and stuff like that. I mean, I was beyond hope after Obama got elected, and I was, just overcome with emotion and cried, oh my God, that kind of thing. And then he dropped more bombs in his first freaking year than Bush did his entire presidency. And you're like, you know what? That's the last time I'm going to trust somebody in a position of power and authority and what they say and what they promise. At the end of the day, the only person who can do anything about anything is me, because I'm the only one I can actually fully control, and I'm the only person I actually ever really want to control.
So what is it about New Zealand that makes it so that, from a cultural perspective, because I'm in Canada and it's a colonial backwater shithole full of a bunch of fucking bootlicking pussies, and it's pathetic. What the fuck is it in a cultural way that makes New Zealand this fucked?
Well, there's so many different reasons. Number one, we're not isolated, we're remote. Okay, so what that means is the vast majority of Kiwis have traveled in their life. They've seen what the world is like out there, and they've come back here. If you had to describe what New Zealand actually is in order to live in, combine a sleepy beach community, like a sleepy beach town, a summer village or something like that, where you go to the beach and you might spend your summers there, with a retirement community. Okay, that's nationwide. Everybody is slowed right the fuck down. Nobody gets enthusiastic about anything. And the further south in New Zealand that you go, I'm near the tip of the north in Auckland, our largest city, but the further south you go, the less enthusiastic you become. It was John Ansell, award-winning ad man, who defined New Zealand's characteristic. Our defining characteristic is a lack of enthusiasm. Okay, I encountered this when I was drinking in Dunedin as a student, where I was with a couple of guys, having a few beers, and they're like, "Yeah, bro, it's gonna be a good night, eh?" And I was just like, man, when do these guys ever get excited about anything? Just talking to my mate, and he says, "Are you kidding me, bro? I've never seen them this excited. This is gonna be a fucking awesome night." There's something about being in the freaking South Pacific, so far away from anything, so far away from influence, so far away from consequence, having all the food that you could ever possibly eat, and having it all fresh, and having everything easy, and having nothing rat race freaking paste or anything like that, that makes people complacent, that makes people lazy, that makes people not want to fight for those things because they've already had them for so long that they don't appreciate them. That's why it's easy to take those things away, little step by little step. Give you a little bit of fluoride in the water to make you a little bit more docile. We put 1080 in our water. 1080 was used during the Japanese campaign against the Chinese during World War II. They would drop it in the water supply upstream, and they would just march through these fields completely unopposed, because everybody would just writhe around on the ground and die miles, hundreds of miles downstream just by poisoning it. Okay, we dump that into our pristine bushland waterways. We've got animals that are suffering from this so badly that they die in 48 hours. And the majority of that is spasming so hard that they actually vomit up their own stomachs. Like their actual organs come out their mouth because they're retching so hard. They have such violent spasms that some of them have actually broken their own spines in half. That's what we do in our pristine, beautiful New Zealand bushland that you see in the Lord of the Rings films and things like that. You go into one of these forests that was just alive with bird song, and then after a 1080 drop, you hear nothing. Not a bird, not an insect, nothing. This kind of ecocide that happens here. We're allowed 1,000 times the level of glyphosate under New Zealand drinking water standards than is allowed under EU drinking water standards. We have some of the lowest fertility. We have some of the highest family violence, some of the highest teenage pregnancy. We have some of the highest homelessness. We have all of these huge, massive problems, and at the same time, EMF pollution that is coming out of everybody's cell phones and cell phone towers and things like that. Under New Zealand safety standards, you're allowed 1 million microwatts. before they consider it dangerous. Okay, one Bluetooth device just by itself, just being on, not connected to anything, is 30,000 microwatts. You add another 30,000 for your 5G on your phone, another 30,000 for your Wi-Fi, and another 30,000 for the cell phone network. So you're getting paid with 120,000 microwatts just from a cell phone alone, let alone if you're in a studio with the wireless mouse and keyboard and the Wi-Fi coming through all of that stuff. We're being cooked, slow roasted. The entire freaking genome is being just ripped apart like in freaking Prometheus. All right, people are slow, they're stupid, and they are obsessed with freaking sports, entertainment. They are lazy because they are too comfortable. They've got fast food 24 hours a day. People are like, oh, it's going to be so hard raising a child today. Bitch, you've got Uber Eats. I mean, you sit there like it's hard to raise a child. Some guy used to have to go out to kill a freaking a saber-toothed tiger long ago in order to eat that night, okay? And you're telling me you got it hard now, okay? Because you can drive down to Macca's and get a double Big Mac at 2 o'clock in the morning if you wanted to. No, life isn't hard. Life is too easy. When life is too easy, you're deprived of your challenge, you're deprived of your spirit, you're deprived of your dignity. That's what they've tried to do. It's called the dignity of risk. If you make something so safe, you deprive people the ability to take risks, and in so doing, if people cannot take risks by their own choice, you rob them of their dignity entirely.
That's fair. That's fair. You look very contemplative, Teace. Now go ahead.
I'm always like that. I perpetually pinching out a loaf. Anyway, as far as like so I mean that always makes me wonder. Yeah, that's the state they're in. But typically, I do those trial balloon metrics of assessment for a geographical region based on how hard they have to hit them in order to keep them complacent. So what the fuck is it about New Zealand from a spiritual perspective where they use that particular kind of backhand?
Well, unlike most of the countries in the world, we have like an official treaty that binds our, oppressed natives peoples with the government. You know, they're representative in the government. They're very vocal and that kind of thing. So everybody's at each other's throats over race all the time. Everybody's freaking paranoid about that. And now everybody's at each other's throats in addition to that about the trans and gay issues. So just pretend for a moment that New Zealand's very different to the rest of the world. We've got a fluoridated population, we've got chemtrails, we've got mainstream media propaganda, we've got socialist indoctrination through the schooling system, we've got sports to entertain and take everybody's attention away from what's really mattered. The diet is terrible, the consumption of alcohol is over the clock. Everybody's got a damaged liver that causes apathy, so you've got basically a dumbed down population who doesn't give a flying fuck about anything, and they're easy to control and they like it that way. Okay, that's New Zealand. I'm pretty sure it's hard for you to relate. You know, they've done the same shit to all of us. We're all in this together. So if you think New Zealand's any different to the United States or Canada or England, the only thing that's different is the accent, mate.
No, I guess what I'm saying is you went more hardcore with the COVID restrictions insofar as what people were willing to take for firsthand abuse, and similar with Australia. And
well, there were, look, as far as I'm concerned, that was all just Five Eyes countries doing various forms of different push and poke. And, you know, it's so New Zealand got it. They had Jacinda, and fucking that little horse-faced demon went and did whatever she did. In Australia, they hit them almost as hard, if not as. There are people that got locked up. I mean, Vinny, besides you, how many people got locked up over that in New Zealand?
Oh, it was just me and Billy. I don't
Billy TK, right?
Yeah, he's the maker of this film, The River of Lies, the New Zealand Scamdemic, an investigative documentary. I'm currently
Right.
helping him edit part 2 about the vaccine reactions, a safe and effective investigative documentary.
So,
And we, oh, sorry. And
go ahead.
so
No,
what?
no, go ahead.
So what we suffered through on behalf of everybody else, I think, was probably the most anybody's actually ever done, and it's because of who we are, right? I'm number one for the longest time. Before anybody else ever even thought about starting a channel, I was number one. I was the be all, the end all, the only in terms of truth media in New Zealand. Like without contest, without competition, easily 10 to 15 times more reach and listeners globally than anybody else. So at the time I was deleted, I think I had 11 million global views on one channel, right? And so when these people come in, the pressure that they had to put on me and Billy came out of nowhere and became the biggest political sensation this country had ever seen, to my knowledge. The media spent $150,000 making a documentary just to demonize and attack Billy a couple of weeks before election day when he was running in the 2020 election. At the same time as releasing that documentary, every single social media account of Billy, his political party, and anybody who was a member of the political party got deleted simultaneously so that nobody would ever be able to talk back or publicly support Billy going into that election. Never seen anything like it before in my life. That is when Billy and I realized that there is zero, I will say that again, zero chance of any political solution being had in New Zealand. They have stitched the system up perfectly. No new party will ever get the votes. No new party will ever get the recognition that Billy ever got. Okay. And because of all the tactics, is the thing. When you probe, when you are a scout, you go and you look for the threats and you find the best way through. We probed harder than anybody in this country's history ever had to find out whether or not the political solution that us conspiracy theorists, and that's a person who believes that there's powerful people who have a lot of influence, who are willing to use their power and maintain that influence. Okay, that's a conspiracy theorist. We're the sane ones. We're the smart ones. We're the ones who see what's going on. And we ran an honest campaign on that platform. Got more support than any other political party ever had in history. More members, more candidates, more donations, and bigger turnouts at any of those political venues and things like that than anybody ever had. And we failed absolutely miserable to come up with even like more than a percent of the vote. Okay, because of the rudimentary sabotage that they have. They didn't even need to rig the vote. They just rig how you can actually get your information out, who can see it, whether or not your party is allowed to be in, and all of those kind of figments that are just there to block anybody. Okay,
Right.
so that's why they went so hard on me and Billy, because we knew that there was no political solution. Even at that point when we got arrested on August 18th, 2021, we knew that it had to be direct action and people had to wake up and they had to be becoming active in their own communities. Go ahead, Teace.
Yes, no, I totally agree with that. So, but from a metaphysical perspective, given the violation of natural law that the very existence of government is, from the onset, that was an inevitable failure. Where we're at is basically stepping back from the bureaucratic lenses we've been encouraged to garner these systems through, and instead to really just perceive them for what they are. All government is a death cult. If you're vying for a seat at the table, you're basically just trying to put your head and both your dick and your literal head on the table and see them removed from you simultaneously because you have to be a bitch. So we know from the very beginning that that's something that's going to fail. Insofar as doing that to demonstrate to the public that, oh, by the way, that's what the fucking system is, that's very true. So that is a self-sacrifice that in a certain way was something that you were able to offer people and that you were able to do. And now we can step back and look, oh, by the way, there's no fucking way. And that's the reality. So what I was kind of alluding to earlier when I was asking you the question about the spiritual underpinning is, from a metaphysical perspective, where, if anywhere in New Zealand, is it still pure? Have you found it? And have you tried taking that route away from the system to find the roots of remnants that are still pure in your country?
I'm afraid not. All right.
What does that look like?
Yes, you see, and that's the thing. We don't know exactly what it looks like. I'm aware of a number of communities and a number of truth groups that are very strong, like in Mount Maunganui. A friend of mine, Glenn, who I met at a festival, runs a really strong truth community down there, over 100 men. You know, they do activities and things like that to keep themselves strong and educate each other, and they work together to do things around the community and stuff like that, and they're all truthers. I've never seen anything like it of it's like being organized, but you have to know these people in order to find out. It's like there's a subculture, right? There's many subcultures in society. There's sex subcultures and stuff like that. Like, you may not know that in areas in your community there's sex clubs and swinger parties and things of that nature, just like you may not know that there are truth clubs and truther parties and things like going on. Like, I was never aware of these pre-COVID, and of course, you know, as a conspiracy theorist, you get invited to so many parties, you know. People are just like, I want to have a good time. Why is this guy bringing me down? You know, I remember it was like at a festival thing, and I brought up satanic ritual abuse as one of the things that the trans agenda is listening to, and they were like, oh no, shut that down, you know, kind of thing. And so when they got up and left the fire, eventually I was like, hey, just remember, guys, Google satanic ritual abuse. Okay, have a good night. And there's
we decided to throw our own parties, though. That's what we've done. We're like, you know what? We like each other mostly, more often than not. Anyway, long enough to listen to music and talk some shit for a little bit. So that's what we're doing.
Well, this is another thing. Can I just say a point here before you continue, Teace? Because all my best friends have been friends that I actually accomplished things with. Friends that I've made music with, things that I've made videos with, things that I've written things with, or built things with, or constructed things with. You know, people you work together with as a team. And so be very wary of your truth circles. Are you just getting together to party? Because if that's the case, you don't really know them. You don't really know who they are, okay? And they may not work well with you. They may not be worth your effing time. They may not be to a level that you are yet where you're actually doing something. You know, I've been introduced to a number of truth circles, and unfortunately, you know, the majority of these people are not really awake. Not yet. Yeah. And they don't seem to be making any real effort to become awake. They're not looking for mentorship. That's first of all. Something you said before, Teace, really triggered me, because I was just like, hold on a second. It's about getting those thousands of hours of all that research that we do compressed. And the only way that you can compress that is by interviewing your elders who've actually thought about all this stuff before. As Passio says in the old expression, is that there's nothing new under the sun. So it's quite likely that whatever brilliant thought that you've ever had, somebody's already had before. And that's probably what people need to be doing, especially if they're new to the alternative media, is looking to people like me. And Mark Passio and Max Egan and James Corbett and the David Icke and the people who've been around a long time, who can tell you very specifically how to cope with what you're doing and what to do, and to give you our knowledge. That's all we've got now. The only thing we've got is knowledge and the ability to teach those who actually want to learn.
So I agree with that. And as far as the parties that we throw, it's basically the offshoots of listeners to this show. And this show is in essence a deep study class for the depth of knowledge that we've all been going through and coping with for our entire lives. This isn't like an introductory class. This is intermediary to advanced. When it comes to people like yourself, Steve, and I.
Yeah, we do like purple belts with jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe brown. Maybe. But yeah.
Well, yeah, we definitely hit brown belts. We'll say that. It's but it's one of those things.
I know
where
my fucking lane, dude. Jesus, man. I know what we're doing.
It's one of those things where at this level, it's an intense frustration for how much of the situation just looks like amateur hour. And that's why the notion of mentorship becomes seminally important. I'm wondering if that truther movement that you alluded to as being something that's prominent in New Zealand, that's sort of tightly guarded in what they're co-creating together. Is that going to be featured in the documentary that you're editing, or is it staying within the lens of mainstream perspective?
No, and generally speaking, I feel very sad, and I don't want to even act like I'm better than anybody else, because I'm not. Okay, I'm still completely imperfect. The only thing I've got really that I know for sure is I know how to broadcast, I know how to edit, I know how to get guests really easily, and just those three skills that I could pass on to anyone who actually wants to learn them. That would be great, but not a single one so far of any of these people in New Zealand who've come out speaking the truth with their own channels has come to me to ask for help or advice, which I would lovingly and gladly
have they been raised to
free.
do that? Is that a cultural thing in New Zealand? Have they been brought up that you're supposed to have a mentor? You're allowed to ask another human being, hey, could you help me with this? Because I wasn't, man. It took me a long time to crack that nut, brother. It really did, and I still, to this day, it fucking pains me to ask for help with absolutely anything. This show runs solely on the fact that if people see value in it, then maybe a couple of them send some of that this way, and that's how it continues. You know what I mean? So for me to hate that aspect as much as I do, I'll try to cut it short, I promise. For me to hate that aspect as much as I do, and then still do the show this way, it's like, well, fuck, I guess I gotta learn, I guess. Yeah, and so now I get to learn, and so now it's starting to be a little bit more fun.
Yeah, and that's when I started on American Freedom Radio, and Danny Romero gave me his first show. I didn't know, being a big Alex Jones fan at the time, that Danny was actually Alex Jones's former producer, and that his lead guy on the network was Alex Jones's former sit-in host. And these guys mentored me, right? I was also mentored by my somewhat fabulous producer, the immortal Mitch Santel. If you guys ever find your way into some cash, like seriously, some thousands of dollars, stuff like that, like I did. I had to ask my daddy, all right, and Mitch told me to do that, just to get some cash to pay him as the producer. He got me George Norrie from Coast to Coast AM to come on my show. Unfreaking believable. The guy with the guy regularly broadcast to like 29 million listeners, and Mitch got him for me, the best producer in the.
Whoa!
Oh, you're muted or dead, one or the other.
Yeah. The camera dropped, and now you're muted, and it kind of went a little bit. I thought I heard like a, I don't know.
Sorry.
Oh, there you are.
The camera's off. The camera's off for a reason. So I'm just I had to go take a wiki leak.
No
Now,
worries, buddy.
and I'll be back
You could have
on
increased
camera.
the readership.
I'll be back on camera in just a second. But where I came from, in talk radio, it was being inspired by the American truth movement community, and simultaneously being mentored by the best of the best, who actually worked with the best of the best, kind of thing, and knew who they really were, knew all the background. Like there's a website I believe called Truther Wars, right? That was open back in the day. And so a lot of people in this movement, they have beefs with each other, okay? Because we're all big personalities, and a lot of us aren't terribly well adjusted to that. and so we fight. We're like little children. And it is very depressing and frustrating sometimes. And unless you have mentors who've seen that kind of thing, right? If you come into the truth movement thinking that everybody in this movement is a good person like you who's out to do the right thing, wake up again. Okay? There are lots of bad people in the movement, man. They are vicious, leeching, freaking attention whoring, narcissistic, disingenuous people who you don't want to listen to and you don't want to associate with. Go ahead, Teace.
So that's the Steve, brilliant pioneer that he is, has the slogan of controlled opportunist in order to demonstrate that bracket of the alternative media, which is that venomous, leeching, parasitic douchebags who are literally just kind of sucking the air out of the people who would otherwise be more prominently featured in the way in which we're going out there and speaking to the issues. I think ultimately where we're at, from the OGs who've been doing this for a very long time, is that we're in a place where we need to synergistically coordinate with one another in order to amplify the legitimate voices. And that's something that we are attempting to do all the time, but then shadow banned and stamped out. Steve, please express your frustrations as the hand gestures don't do it.
My dude, I mean, for what now? It's like almost 6 years I've been screaming, look, there's only a small amount of us that are gonna ever get this at any given point in time. So if we don't start working to fucking gather, it's gonna get even worse. And everyone goes, I don't like what you think about my one hero that might not have been as hero-y as I want him to be. And you're an asshole, and I don't like you, and I don't want to. Look, Vinny, I don't know. You did, I think you did like sales or some shit like that. I had to do a little bit of that. I mostly have done construction. That's where I come from the trades, and you work with a lot of people that you don't necessarily like, but you get your fucking work done, and then you go home and you do whatever you want. Or you go to the bar with the two people that you do like, and you talk shit about the other people that you don't like, and then you go back to work tomorrow and you do it all the fuck over again, because you want to get to the point to where you can go sit on that bar stool and bullshit, or fucking sit around a campfire and smoke a joint, or fucking go home and make sweet, sweet love to your wife, or whatever it is that you do when you're not doing the thing that needs to be done with the people you don't necessarily like all the time. I don't know why the fuck people can't wrap their heads around that.
So
where it comes to, like, I don't know, fucking actual multi-dimensional warfare on every conceivable level through a fairly easily identifiable line of fucking predators.
Yeah. So that's the thing. It's like you got to come together on the points you agree and the points you disagree. You can table those discussion points for a later discussion. For example, that discussion can happen after we've defeated the criminal sociopathic frickin' scumbaggery that assails mankind's frickin' every aspect of fucking life, you dipshits, right? Just get over yourselves, get over your emotions, and get over your trust issues and things like that. Trust this plan. The plan is, if we don't come together, we're all fucking exterminated. Okay? Is that clear enough for you? Shut the fuck up. Stop being a dick. Stop attacking each other. For fuck's sake. Don't you realize what's at stake here?
Well, Vinny, you did a cameo on an episode of What I Created. Did you ever see that?
No.
All right, so Steve, let's watch it together.
Well, you haven't shared your screen, my friend.
I'm not. I sent you the link in the chat.
Oh, okay, I see that now. All right, cool.
So Vin, this is 5 minutes of an artistic creation to speak to us coming together to work together in a synergistic way, and you and your little baby make an appearance in it. So if you haven't seen this yet, it'll cheer you up.
Oh, cheers, bro.
Okay, excellent. I'll get there. I promise.
Well, that's good
Chris
because
is
I
on
do
his
need
way
some
in, too.
cheering up right about now. And I'm actually splitting up with my partner, so I don't get to see my baby as much. So that's a bit of a painful thing there, but never mind.
I know the words to that song.
Yes.
Ooh, you're echoing, Chris.
What about now?
I don't know.
No.
There we go. That seems
That's
much
better.
better.
In the
All right.
fuck.
All right. You can tell us about how I was fucking you over in a few minutes, my friend.
Well, I got kind of good news on that, I guess.
Oh, well, kick ass. It's even better. We like good news. We do. Oh, I should. No, there is volume eventually, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I can't hear anything yet. Oh, there we go. It's gone. Yeah.
So how do we save the day, says Teace.
You've got to make it a dialogue.
Like really have those deeper conversations.
What you'll find when talking to normies a lot of times is that they really haven't thought about most of this stuff.
They get react like complete and total petulant little assholes.
That's where we come in, an alternative perspective, so that you can see, process the information.
I think they're trying to get rid of culture because it does connect us. It also reminds us why community is so important. It's about unity. It's about finding similarities. It's about connecting with one another, but also celebrating our differences, celebrating other cultures.
So we need to bring love into that situation. And no matter how you feel about laws, let's talk about what's right and good and just adopt that and live that kind of stuff.
And entertain a crazy idea every day.
You know, being happy. Nobody likes a Debbie Downer. For me, it's always been important. Making jokes, being silly, self-deprecating, being a prankster. That's how to win hearts and minds.
All of the spiritual masters, every tradition have said this in one way or another. But the truth is that you just literally start right here.
So if you want to save the world, save yourself first. Really go within and look at your shadow, say sorry, make amends, and make the most of your life.
You're a powerful creator. You're one of the most powerful fucking creators ever. You're actually it. You're watching this. You are a deliberate creator, and you are here to change this place, but in love, not in fear.
So as these things are collapsing around you, that might be a great opportunity for you to go out and start something else to replace that dying thing.
One of the most important things we can do is recognize true divides versus false divides.
United we stand, divided we fall.
Government, in my opinion, is violence. Government is the core foundational problem, I think, of why our society as the human species has gone in a very dangerous direction.
Yeah, if
best thing to do is don't participate in their games.
And it won't require much of each individual if we do so in a collective fashion.
Here's the reality. We need to conspire.
Read some fucking books.
Yeah.
Read the classics, read all that shit. They're part of your culture.
Don't do what I did, which is bring up 9/11 at Thanksgiving dinner, because I can assure you it's the wrong way to go about it.
And we're back.
Yep.
Yeah, this lovely, lovely little thing there, bro. Thank you for that.
So that's the idea behind it, and that's one of those things where in that window of time, you were taking care of a newborn baby, going through a bunch of legal troubles from being stepped on and crushed, and that's one of those things that's happening all the time around us because we're all out there speaking in a way in which we don't necessarily see how it comes back to us, and that's an important sort of reminder for all the time. If you feel like you're losing, somewhere your voice is being heard. And that's important to remember and to come together and to give each other those reminders. So I have you on the first episode of my show, Conspiracy Synergy, as one of the best alternative media people. So thanks for the work you've been doing and the work you continue to do, because it's important to go out there and just revitalize the spirits, because otherwise they just stay pretty fucking damp.
Yeah, and there's a karmic feedback loop. I call it the karma piggy bank, right? So I think whenever somebody's pissed me off, like really pissed me off, what I do is I try and, depending on how pissed off I am, I'll try to help as many people as I can. So if I'm pretty pissed off, I might help 5 people. If I'm really just full of rage, I'll help 10 people. In so doing, in having a conversation with somebody who I respect, with somebody that I trust, with somebody who I'm helping, you know, and doing that 5, 10 times, you lose that rage. You lose that anger, because you're reminded of who you really are. At the end of the day, I'm Vinny Eastwood. I'm one of the best people at what I do. I help people through very serious shit. Stuff that they had no idea that they could get through until they've had a conversation with me. You know, I'm a nightmare for people at festivals. Because, you know, I remember one guy's trying to explain to me some kind of a legal prescience of an 1835 declaration here in New Zealand, while I'm trying to have a conversation with these 2 girls. And I'm just like, can you hold on 1 second, bro? I'm interested in that, and I want to talk about it, but I'm just trying to explain to these girls the structure of reality at the moment. All right, and you know, and I think that's probably my deepest profound realization I hope to give back to the earth is it's not my concept. I think it's just the truth. Is I got asked one time, so Vinny, give it to us straight. Is the earth flat or is it round? And I went, well, I think it's a holographic fractal that's being projected by collective consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. And they were like, whoa. And it's just the truth. Hologram storage device. Okay, you try to delete something off of a hard drive, it's gone. You can't delete stuff off of a hologram. That's how our reality is structured. It doesn't matter how long ago you died, part of you is still around. It doesn't matter how long ago you burned that wood, part of that particle of smoke is still somewhere. And the fractal nature of our reality means that everything's just a smaller or larger version of something else. You know, I'm 6'6". Okay, and I'm sure that there's a smaller Vinny Eastwood out there. But as above, so below. Just
Yeah, his name's
like,
Joe. He's got a great podcast called The Legit Bat. It's kind of weird. Yeah. Shout out, though.
I need to do a real Slim Shady kind of thing, but the real Slim Vin after I lose a bit more weight, of course. And the concept here is that because everything's just a larger or smaller version of something else, the cell becomes your body, and you've got twin magnetic fields, just like the Earth does with the Van Allen radiation belts, and that the galaxy is in a toroidal form, and that it's part of all these other cells, which, if you zoom out far enough, are just like basically forming up some one big body of the universe, which is probably just a cell in a much larger organism. We don't have a concept yet. I call it the Great Devourer. In a sci-fi book that I'm trying to write here. And the structure of reality, because nothing can ever be forgotten and everything's just a smaller or larger version of everything else, is that everything's conscious, all right? The couch that I'm sitting on is conscious. The microphone that you're speaking through has its own consciousness, has its own vibe. All of these things can be actually relayed, and they're helping to put out these vibrations that are actually starting to co-create reality together. All the inanimate objects and all the sentient life, all as one infinite expression of the universe, putting their signal out and changing things as they will, and creating, right? Even on a microscopic scale to the macroscopic scale to the 3D and the 5D beyond time and space. This is where we all live. Everything that we do has been done before, and everything we do will happen again. We are part of a system. We are part of a cycle. And the Native Americans called it the 7-generation principle. What are you doing right now? And what would the 3 previous generations think of you? What would your father and mother, your grandfather, your grandmother, and your great-grandfather and your great-grandmother think about what you're doing right now? And then what would your children think of you? What would your grandchildren think of you? What would your great-grandchildren think of you? I'd like to think that all the 7 generations that are at play right now would think of what I'm doing right now with you two guys on this show, and what we've done collectively with our work for humanity, that they would look upon us and they would smile proudly and with hope that despite all that has been thrown at us, despite all the rain that has ever come down in our otherwise sunny lives, we didn't stop moving. Reminds me of the scene in Lord of the Rings. It's like in the great stories, the ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were, but sometimes you didn't want to know the end. Because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing. This shadow. A new day will come. And when the sun shines, it will shine out the clearer. Those are the stories that stayed with you. Those are the stories that meant something, even if you were too small to understand why. And I know now that the folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, but they didn't, because they were holding on to something, that there's some good in this world, and it's worth fighting for.
Samwise Gamgee.
Gamgee in the hood.
Is that like a traditional New Zealand thing now? It's like you don't have a national anthem anymore. You're just able to quote Lord of the Rings.
Just quote The Hobbit chapter and verse. Yeah, I wanted to fuck that up so bad and be like, man, I love Ron Weasley. I really did. I figured I would let it play out the.
You could have fucked it up. You could have fucked it up even worse and said you wanted to fuck Ron Weasley, I guess.
Oh
but
yeah, no.
You know, I mean,
I have just not cut the right way for that. I am not.
just go for broke. You know, there's no rules here. You know,
Dude, didn't they have everybody except for like every male in that movie went on to play a Nazi or something like that? I think that's how it worked.
I mean, I think that's how we should all go out being remembered. You know, like.
He was a fabulous young wizard, but then he turned into a Nazi. Yeah.
Well, so it's the it is like Gandalf said that most people think that great evil is only matched by a great good, but that is not what I've found. It's the small things of ordinary folk, little simple acts of kindness and love that keep the darkness at bay.
Yeah. So do bullets and EMP guns. It was, as long as we're keeping all things equal.
Yes.
With love.
Well, yeah.
With love.
My grandfather was a minister, and he used to tell me all the time. He was like, "Yeah, you should definitely pray, but you should remember to row away from the rocks. You should still do that." You should.
It reminds me of the story of the guy in New Orleans Hurricane Katrina, and he was in his house, and the floodwaters came up, and he said, "God, please save me." And this guy with a two-person kayak was rowing outside his door. He's like, "Hey man, come in the kayak, come to safety." And he's like, "No, God will save me." And the water gets a little bit higher, so he's on the second story now. And the guy in a rowboat comes down and says, "Jump in the boat." And he's like, "Nah, God will save me." And then he's on the roof now, and Coast Guard helicopter comes in with a winch. And they say, "Jump in the chopper, we'll take you to safety." He's like, "No, God will save me." And he dies, he drowns. And he meets God, and he said, "God, why didn't you save me?" And God's like, "Look, bro, I sent you a kayak, I sent you a dinghy, I sent you a fucking helicopter. You didn't take the hint." And that's the thing with some people. They don't realize that God is ever present. Okay? God is in the people you're talking to. God is in the things that you're doing. It's not something outside of you or outside of your control or something like that. It's there like a river, enabling you to harness its flow. That's how the universe works. That's how God works. It doesn't work outside you or before you. It works through you. And all you've got to do is divine your purpose and serve its will.
It definitely doesn't. God definitely doesn't work through a pedophile wearing a dress and a crown with blood diamonds and shit like that on it.
They made a choice. You know, they made a choice. Just like you and I did. And I got this sketch. You know, as a guy comes up to you and says, "Vinny, I want you to sell lies." And you're like, "Lies? Well, what'll I get if I sell lies?" "Mate, you're going to be rich. You're going to have all the women you want. You're going to have an awesome place to live. You're going to have all the cars and all those famous people that you see, or all those powerful people that you see. You'll do coke with them. You'll be at their homes and stuff like that, partying late into the night, mate." "Really? That's what I get if I sell lies?" You're like, "Yeah, mate." "Oh, okay. What about you, mate? What do you reckon I should sell?" "I reckon you should sell the truth, Vinny." "Oh, yeah? What do I get if I sell the truth?" "Well, you're probably going to lose your job and your friends, and your family's probably not going to talk to you, and society is sort of going to hassle you and treat you like some kind of a leper." "Really? That's what I get if I sell the truth?" "Yeah, mate. You're not really selling me on it." "Yeah, I know, it's the truth, mate. You can't really be dressed up." And okay, well, what are the unintended consequences of selling lies then?" "Oh, well, you know all that money you got? Yeah. You say one wrong thing, that's gone. Same with the house, the cars, women, all your powerful friends and everything, they won't want to know you because they're not really your friends. And if you're deep in a depression or anxiety or something like that, and you just need a good friend to talk to, you won't have anybody to talk to, and you'll be alone. And you'll only really have drugs and vain entertainment to sustain you. So, well, what are the unintended consequences of telling the truth? Well, you won't have many friends, but the ones that you do, you'll be able to talk to them about anything. Anything that's troubling you, you can call them up at 3 o'clock in the morning. The people that you love you too. And you'll be able to sleep restfully every night, knowing that you're a good person and everything that you need, everything that you want will just turn up exactly when you need it, whether it be a job, a house, a wife, whatever you need will be there exactly at the moment you need it. That's the unintended consequence of telling the truth.
And occasionally free weed.
Not occasionally, constantly.
And long stretches of the
I'm
utmost
trying to be.
anguish and despair. Yeah.
I'm the kind of guy who goes to a festival or a protest and goes home with more weed than he arrived with. People know, you can't laugh like this and not be a stoner.
It's fair. It's fair. I've found the people who shit on weed in the truth community are some of the most like thin-skinned, fucking just baby dick motherfuckers about it. And it's like the people that will get like almost violent if you're like, I think maybe we should interject a little nuance into some of these larger conversations. Or perhaps approaching a subject with some jokes is a little bit more, to me, approachable than just beating beating somebody over the head with like 5,000 pounds of, anything from flat earth to fucking the deepest, darkest esoteric occult knowledge. To have a different approach to it. And I've found that. I'm gonna change the fucking calendar, Harps. Jesus, dude, it's in my kid's room. He stole it and fucked it up. So I gotta like flatten it out. I have April up. I'm sorry. It's one day. Put up with it. All day with this. All day. It's not even 10 o'clock in the morning here yet. Jesus. Dude, you guys are fucking.
That's freaking relentless, especially International Satanic Holiday.
Maybe I still want to ride out April one more day. Why can't you just let me be me? Huh? Harps?
You need people to.
If that is your real name.
So sometimes you do need people to point stuff out, because I can't keep all the plates spinning in the air by myself. We're men. We forget.
What you got, Chris? You appear to be muted.
I know he appears to be.
All right.
See, now that's a way to disappoint a lady right there.
That's okay. I don't think his wife even watches the show.
Be on mute and disappear. Yeah.
My ex-wife never watched the show either. I think I was with her for 14 years. She never watched an episode.
Samesies. Almost to like the exact length too. Of time spent with X. Yeah. Never. Yeah.
I remember one time I came into the room and I was like, "Oh my god, baby, I've got David Icke coming on the show," and she goes, "Who?" Oh, man. When you're on different planets with the person who loves you, it's just And that's the thing. It's just relationships are tough, and I'm going through a breakup at the moment, and it's hard. That loss and that grief with somebody that you're close to, and that you have to get used to the idea of not being with them anymore. And I thought about it like this, that just before the show, what does this actually mean to me? Because I've been in a relationship for maybe the entire time that I've been a truther, and sort of known what I've known and been doing what I do. And so I don't actually know who I am without a loved one in my life, really. Because getting to the truth, that's how you sort of discover who you are. But if you're always constantly got somebody else there with you, experiencing that, how do you know who you are without them? Right. So that's the kind of introspective and sort of self-building journey that I'm sort of embarking on now. Who really am I without a woman in my life that I love? A woman in my life that I love.
Fortunately, my current relationship, like, she's the most supportive I could imagine as far as what I'm doing and this kind of shit. And it's like, hey, it's weird. It's new. Go ahead.
I've always taken the both the feminine side of all of our existence, and especially the place of women in the world. And I'm not saying that to mean that you belong in the kitchen, but let's be honest, you're the only ones who have wombs, so your place is to perpetuate the species, and that's kind of just the reality. And what that is you have the eggs in multiple generations existing in the same body. So they're there from birth onward, which means women aren't just clocks, they're seasons, they're calendars. They extend out over our entire lifetime. They're motivators, they're conductors. They give you something to run towards, and in their absence, you run harder to try and catch up with the next booty that you're trying to pin down. So it's one of those things where when you're removed from them, to a certain extent, it's a catalyst to get you off your ass so that you're more hardcore, so that you can be reunited with them. Because a man's trajectory is coming out of a woman trying to find his way into another one. And so what I've kind of noticed with that whole trajectory over time is that it pushes you and it compels you on a very deep and meaningful level through non-linear time. Yeah.
And that's what I've been finding is I don't work out, but now I am. I don't listen to Stoic philosophy. Now I do. I don't work terribly hard. Now I do. And that's the thing, when you have this kind of impetus. I think I just need to be loved. I think everybody basically just needs to be loved and be shown appreciation and love on a regular basis. I mean, we all do. And so in the absence of that, you have to kind of care for yourself, not love yourself per se, because that's basically the root of Satanism, is that self-love. It's sickening how
Sometimes
much
it is the only way you
themselves.
get practice, though.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
But I digress. The concept here is exploring the self and how you relate to other people, how you relate to toxic people in particular. And I remember the man who I actually ever first sought as a mentor before I started, maybe in 2007, I think it was a man named Jonathan Eisen, author of Suppressed Inventions and Other Discoveries, and the publisher of Uncensored magazine at the time, and the New Zealand Journal of Natural Medicine. And I remember we were sitting in the car with him, and we were having a joint, and he says, "I'm going to have to ask you a very serious question now." He's a New York Jew. And he goes, "Are you an agent?" And I went, he goes, "That's the best answer you could have given me." And I talked to him a little while ago. I think it was just late last year, and I was saying, hey, John, I think I've copied your lifestyle. And he goes, what do you mean? And I say, well, I don't go out very much. I work at home. You know, don't necessarily go out and party. And when I do go out and see people or something like that, it's only really with a select few people. And I mostly just keep to myself and do my work and live a kind of modest life. And I don't have hundreds of people that I see in all these parties and gatherings that I go to and stuff like that. And he goes, yeah, that's because those people ain't worth your fucking time. Right? And I think that's basically the rhythm of anybody who's really serving the true purpose of truth. You know, for lack of a better term, you'd call it God. Really, there's a concept that you have to just survive with what you've got and do what you can with it. Right? There was this cooking show, and it's a great analogy that they give them all sorts of random ingredients. Okay, each team has completely different ingredients, and some of them are like ingredients that you wouldn't really think of how to make it with, like a pig's trotter or something like that, something weird. And the show is about what you do with those ingredients that are given to you, and that's all of our choice.
Yep, I don't know if it was Aldous Huxley. Might have said it. No, I don't know who the fuck actually said it, but it's not what you do, it's what you do with what's given to you. It's like what you do in response, basically. The whole life gives you lemons kind of thing. And yeah, it's very true. So that's sort of, it's one of those things, man, where it's like I'm perpetually looking for a quick solution and I won't let the idea go. Because like at one point we had Dr. Shiva on the show and he describes it as like a phase transition. And that's like when you reach kind of like after a long, slow boil, very quick culminations. And what are the tiny little ingredients that you add to those stews to make them just right? Because if you have anything without salt, it doesn't really taste completely like itself. So that's what I'm perpetually in search of. It's like, what the fuck are those tiny little ingredients that add that accent so that we're able to bring those ingredients together and make it a feast?
Yeah. I mean, do you have any military experience? I don't, you know. And so what we're dealing with here is, I call it the 360, right? So the 360 degrees in a circle. Each one of those is a weapon of war that's being used against us: psych warfare, kinetic warfare, economic warfare, emotional warfare, so on and so forth. Having all of these different forms of warfare being deployed on the population, us, simultaneously. And each and every one of us knows maybe about one of those things and knows exactly what to do about it. The question is, can we coordinate our efforts so that all 360 degrees of this circle, this penitentiary that we're living in, this global penitentiary, get all of those things resisted simultaneously so that there's nothing left? Because what happens is if you try to strike out at one, all the rest of them strike out against you, and you're back to square one. You get crushed. So if you make war simultaneous on every single playing field at once, and knowing exactly where you fit in that playing field and are coordinated strategically with other people who are attacking other parts of it simultaneously, that's, I think, maybe where we're going to be getting some traction here in terms of actually having a tactic and a stratagem that will actually destroy the largest military and psych warfare and surveillance system that mankind has ever known. Now, guys like us, on the other hand, we perform, I think, the therapy function. Okay, at the end of every battle, when the soldiers come back, there are counselors, there are nurses, there are people who do the showers and things like that. And simultaneously, there's people back home in the war effort who are selling war bonds and doing shows and broadcasting the news and so on and so forth. So in the war effort, we have our niche, we have our need, Okay, we heal people. Okay, you may have experienced this. I certainly have, where people come up to you and say, "I would have killed myself had it not been for your show." Okay, I've had 3 people tell me this. And in talk radio, there's a metric for every person that comes up and tells you something. There's 1,000 other callers that didn't call in who were thinking the same thing, right? So potentially over that metric, I might have saved 3,000 lives, maybe, just because giving people hope, giving something people something to laugh at and something to listen to. We all perform that function here on this show today. And I can tell by the way you guys talk and the way you guys look that you have a similar way of going about it, and then you help people in your own way. They say that hurt people, and healed people heal people. That's our role. We don't have to think about the military strategy. We don't have to think about no political representation or solution or anything like that. That's not our field. Our field is giving people perspective and insight into all the things that are confusing them, to reduce their confusion, reduce their loneliness, reduce their depression, so that they're capable of accepting the truth and dealing with it and being able to get on with it. That is our role. Without people like us, people would be killing themselves. People would not be waking up anymore. People wouldn't be quitting their jobs and getting active. People wouldn't be inventing stuff. People wouldn't be doing artwork. People wouldn't be engaging in life. We have one of the most important roles that really exists in the global truth movement. And I think that sometimes it's behooves us to sit back and recognize what it is we do contribute and what we mean to people and how much those people actually mean to us as well.
Well, I agree with that, and it's well said. And I think that it also sort of speaks to how interconnected everything is in a way in which we don't necessarily recognize. And there's a saying that I like to use, which is if you ask someone who sewed your pants, and they're never going to know the answer to that question. But the friendly reminder is even the people whose names you don't know help cover your ass.
Mm. Yeah. I think that's true, psychologically, spiritually, even, but in ways of knowledge, we're helping to enhance mankind in our own little way, and the world is better that we are here doing it, and it would be worse if we weren't.
Yeah, it's and if you get into like once again esotericism, Gurdjieff, fourth way, if you get into like spiritual masters and all this kind of notation of insight to the metaphysical plane, they aren't sitting on a fucking mountain somewhere wearing a diaper answering vague fucking questions. They're out in the real world doing their job in a way in which it has delicacy and efficacy that then resonates throughout humanity, and they're all over the place. So you can be a fucking janitor and following the way of having more of an effect than someone who's a billionaire shitting on everybody. And it's really difficult to remind yourself of that because it feels so isolating and lonely, kind of like what you were talking before with the bit about friends. Anyway, welcome back, Chris. Please, let's talk to you and see if you completely disappear this time. How you doing, man?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Barely.
Yeah, you're a little soft.
Am I still?
Yeah, spit on it. See if that helps.
Rub it a little.
I don't What about now? Is it low?
Yeah, better.
Oh, that's good.
It's
That's
better.
good.
It's better. It's better.
Okay.
It's in there. We feel it now.
Welcome to the show, Vinny. If you haven't caught the full scope of how we do things here. By the way, man, the show does start at 7. We let people run into the chats for about 10 minutes, hang out, listen to music, grab coffee, roll a joint, shit like that, and then we start officially at the top of the hour. So it's the people who produce the show, because we don't do any sponsors or ads or any of that shit. They have like their whole own fucking world outside of what we're doing on screen here. And that's all for them.
Just
Except for I like
reminds me
to listen to a bunch of different kinds of music and then force the people who watch the show to listen to that music as well.
Well, I had a realization about my listening audience, and maybe the same is true of yours, because you've probably met a bunch of your listeners, and I have mine. Each and every one of them is skilled. They've got skills. They've got talents, and each and every one of them has stories. The stories that they have a meaning to them. Stories that taught them things, and they're good and trustworthy, right? And every single listener that I've I think anybody who's actually really ever listened to my show for any sustained period, they all share those characteristics. And sometimes as hosts, we don't show enough gratitude, really, for just who those people are that listen to us, and how good it feels that quality of people who actually listens to us. So big shout out to all those people who listen to this show, because if you're anything like my listeners, you've got a lot to be proud about.
They're good people.
So
They're weird.
If you'll all reach under your seats right now. No.
You will find a joint.
That'd be fantastic. That'd be great.
Oh.
That'd be great. Well, no, and you're right. And yes, you know, they are weird, Teace. They're hella weird, but it's okay because so are we. And it's the I don't.
Weird.
Yeah, the people who
Them
are
reaching under
whatever.
the seat and getting
Normal
gifts.
people are boring.
Well,
Okay.
and we're repellent. Like they don't even want to. The same people that spend half the day typing out fuck around find out and shit like that on the internet, when you get to see the state cracking skulls of either anti-vax protesters or J6 people or Antifa or college kids in freaking Walmart tents and kefias. You know, either way, those people, if they get anywhere near where we are, unless it's at a concert with 10,000 other people and they don't fucking know, they don't want to be anywhere near us.
Well, that's another thing as well. You're like, oh, you guys are talking like you're better than us or something like that. We
Motherfucker,
are.
maybe.
we are better than you, okay? And it's not because we were born better. It's not because we were fucking told that we were better, and it's not because we just told ourselves that we were better or something like that. It's because we've done more. We've helped more. We've accomplished more than most of you ever fucking will. That's the responsibility of having intelligence, of having integrity, of having honor or decency, is that you are not any better than anybody else just because you think the way you do or because you feel the way you do. It's your accomplishments, what you've achieved, what your track record is. Are you doing more harm than good? You know, that kind of thing. People don't even remember that. And it's like, I know exactly who I am because I remember what I have done to get myself into this position. And nobody who hasn't done anywhere near that amount of work has an opinion that I value, okay? And is going to cause me to question my resolve. And that's what these people in everyday life, these normies, as you call them, are coming from a perspective of they have no idea who we are, gentlemen. They have no idea what we've seen. They have no idea what we've done. And their opinion deserves just as much of our attention as they've given us.
So, yeah, no, I agree with that. Steve, do you want to jump in first?
Well, go ahead, man.
I want to tell a story about a fellow alternative content creator dude.
But just before you do, I'm going to turn off my camera and mic for a second. I got to take a wiki leak.
Do what you got to do.
Okay, sure. But so this is a story that speaks to, because a lot of the time, the people who do the really hard work that keep everyone else going don't really have a platform of recognition. I mean, we'll talk about the hard work that we do in a show like this, but at the same time, you can have a comment section of people talking about that you're great or appreciating the things that you say. They also nitpick the shit out of you and throw things at you and hate on you because you don't change your calendar and little things like that. We love you. You're great. I get it. It goes both ways. Point is, I'm going to tell a story about Ricky Varandas, who's a really great guy. My favorite thing that Ricky ever said was he was telling a story about an experience that he had at a restaurant with his kids during the pandemic. And it was this, it was like they were sitting there not wearing masks, and someone walks up to his kid and is like, oh yeah, you should be wearing your mask, it'll help keep you safe and will keep other people safe. And it wasn't in a mean way, it wasn't like a malicious thing. And the kids kind of like watches this person walk away, and he makes like a confused face or whatever, and Ricky looks at his kid and he's like, you're not confused, he's confused. And I thought that was such a beautiful and poignant way of understanding what was happening on a deep level of his child's development, and then addressing it firsthand and doing that in a very, very tender way that didn't have to backhand him with like, oh no, that guy's an asshole. It'd be like, no. A lot of people are just confused. And that can be very confusing for children. So one of the things that we've all come to be the recipient of are the gifts of our parents. And they're never necessarily going to get the credit of how they have passed on the best parts of themselves to then influence their children. And so, yeah, as much as we're doing hard work and we do have a platform to get that credit, it's one of those things where even the people who you don't know the names of help cover your ass. And so that's my favorite story of Ricky Varandas, because he's a badass dude who goes out there in a really, really beautiful, emotional way and brings us together and gives us all a stage. So just wanted to tell that story really quickly. I don't know if Vinny completely dropped out of the call, but Steve's somewhere. Chris, talk about what's going on with you. How are you getting fucked by the state today?
Well, the county they lied to me, those bastards, saying I owe more money than I. Well, I have a license, right? And I guess I owed Iowa more money than I thought. And I was on, because I have fines in Iowa. I used to live in Iowa, is what happened.
Well, that's the first problem. Don't live in Iowa.
Yeah. Well, I haven't lived there for like over a decade. And I guess I set up some payment plan 12, 13 years ago or something, that I was paying on these fines, but I wasn't paying through this payment plan because I basically forgot I was on this fucking payment plan because I was drinking a lot. I was drinking so much that I took the interlock off my car so it would quit, charging me money every time I tripped it, So I forgot I had this payment plan, but I was paying on these fines, just not on the payment plan. They revoked it. I didn't know. And they suspended me in August, and I didn't know. And I went to renew my license, and they fucking said I couldn't. And my license expires on the 10th. So it's this weird thing, 'cause then when it expires, I got to do things over again to get my CDL back and put it, get it intact. And Iowa's telling me I owe $5,000, and I need $5,000.
He's getting extorted for $5,000 that he has to pay up in 9 days.
Like I paid some tickets from 21 years ago that were on dismissed cases. So, but I found out today that fuck the county, fuck them guys. That right now I'm suspended because of like 2 tickets that I got to pay off, and they're like $2,500. So I'm trying to get that together right now. I already paid like $600 because I got my check today. My worker, my fucking 66.6. Isn't that nice? 66.6%.
Nice. Nice.
What a coincidence, right? But yeah. So the good news is, talking to the DOT, she's like, if my license does, if I can't get all this money and my license does lapse, once I get the money, pay it, if I can do it in the next couple of weeks, I don't have to redo anything with my CDL. I can just go in and just get it, get my license back and stuff. So that's a major weight. I still have to pay a bunch of money out of nowhere, but I was really scared of losing my CDL because that's my, when I go back to driving, that's my bread and butter, So that's it. That's all that's happened. That's the good news is like I don't have to fucking take a class and pay another $5,000 for a class to get my CDL back.
That's right.
This is one thing that really pisses me off is that other people punishing you in their way. It's like if I do something wrong, and I've done plenty of wrong stuff in my life, I punish myself. I try to do good. I try to repair the situation and what have you. But with something as impersonal as fines or things like that, or criminal procedures or whatever, things where there's no real victim and what have you, it just something pisses me off about it.
What's
something
crazy
massively.
is the actual crimes have no effect on me whatsoever, because they're past the statute and they're basically they're not off my record. You can go look at them, but they don't affect me in any way because like I said, I just paid on one that was old enough to drink.
That's so fucked up. It's so fucked up. My ticket is old enough to buy a beer. Really? You gonna? All right. Okay.
Which, like I've said, I owe them money. Whatever. I did the crimes. I did some time and fucking. I got to pay my
President
shit.
fucking Sniffs a lot just gave a bunch of fucking college derelicts a free pass on their goddamn student loans. You don't get some
that's
amnesty?
what's fucking crazy.
Where's your amnesty?
Dude, when I called yesterday and I was like, yo, I'm trying to find the statute of limitations because there's an Iowa code that says judgments, is a 20-year statute of limitations. And I was trying to get in to see if there was some sort of statute. And I call up and she's like, I don't know. And then she's like, someone in the background's like 65 years. And I'm like, what? That's fucking crazy. You just made that up. I recorded that too because I was like, you just made that up. She's like, what? And then I hung up. But then my wife's like, yeah, I seen something from 1993, something about 65 years, but she can't find the damn website that she found it on. So I could like the specific wording of what it is so I can cross-reference it if there is a 65-year thing. Because in 2013 in Iowa, I guess they forgave everybody that owed fines from like before 1935.
Okay, hold on. So you have to start being a criminal as a baby and only get away with it as a senior citizen. Okay.
Well, I mean, if we want to get,
muted.
if I wanted
If you're
to tell
not
the
baby
whole
selling
story,
crack in the Dave Chappelle bit, you're automatically eliminated from being a criminal going forward.
hey, baby, if I wanted, to tell the whole story, I got away with quite a bit on this.
See,
whole
and that's
fucking
the
thing.
thing, man. That's the thing. At the end of the day, you really got to gauge what you got away with versus what they're trying to get out
So
of you.
fucking close, but I believe they do have a 65-year statute, and if it was 20 years, I would win. But
is there something
What's
that
that?
also ties in most of the people in the truth community is that have you guys all had a brush with the law at some point and saw how corrupt they
Many
were
points,
and how much,
a lot of points.
that kind of thing? Because I think that
Less
nobody
a brush
actually,
and more of a scraping, really.
so
that-
maybe this is a commonality. This is a commonality which I think actually bears a little further discussion point on this, because you have to firsthand suffer at the henchmen of the New World Order in some way before you're going to wake up to do something about it, right? And be motivated to really do your research and find out, because it's like a somebody who's a victim of a narcissistic ex or something like that will suddenly start researching narcissism and go into the rabbit hole. But if you've been traumatized directly by a system, a representative of that system, then you have to investigate the entire system, don't you? So maybe if somebody's got a criminal record, that's an indicator that they might be open to listening to the truth.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
poverty,
it's
or the
yeah.
compulsory school system, and being one of the kids who realized that it was an entrainment camp designed to like destroy your soul. So yeah, it's kind of that
Well,
spectrum.
true, but you can't find those people. You can find people with criminal records. There's databases and things of that nature. Way to verify this, doing checks and what have you. What if the only people that we can trust are other criminals? What if the fact that we've been criminalized for doing necessarily nothing wrong? What if that's actually the key? What if that's actually part of what wakes anybody and everybody up to the system as a key? What if it's a prerequisite?
Well, so it's a really interesting point of reflection, and also that in the United States they pick up on the idea of if you're a criminal, you can do military service. So they'll try and redirect you into the establishment to further break you under the auspices of doing something good. And then there's like other sides of it where the whole MK Ultra, they'll experiment on prisoners that's like vaccinated against their will. So it's a really interesting idea that the people who are on the offshoots of society might actually find their way to bettering society in a really profound way if they then aren't latched onto and giving fewer like chances for redemption. And I'm not like a religious person, but I remember hearing one person talking about at one point that church is a place for broken people. And that's the idea of it's like someplace you can go for redemption for your sins, and then they rape you as a kid. So it's one of those things where it's like the idea of, yeah, do we go and look for people in that demographic to then give them hope of how to build themselves out of it? And I think that there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, if we're kind of what the South American legend refers to as wounded healers, all right? The story goes that there was a man who suffered a great wound, a wound that really debilitated him in life. And try as he may, he was unable to heal from that wound until he found, or rather, he was found by a wounded healer, somebody who'd suffered a similar wound and found their own way back. And so I think that's probably what really defines a lot of the people that are in our field and broadcasting in this way is wounded healers. We've had some bad shit happen to us, but we've found our way back and we found our strength. And so if some bad shit is happening to you or has happened to you and you haven't found your own way back, this is the place where you might be able to heal.
Look at like people in prison. How many will bury themselves in the legal library, and learning law, learning government law, learning the ins and outs of law? There's so many that do that like prisoners that go in are people that can go in and come out and they could probably pass a bar, right? From the legal shit they go through. So that's
except they can't because they got a criminal conviction,
Yeah, and I'm wondering like the GATE program and TAG and stuff, like how many people that went through that ended up either they had a criminal record going into it or ended up with run-ins with the law afterwards.
So I think this is also one of the reasons why most of us are unable to work together in close proximity for prolonged periods of time, principally because the reason for our initial trauma that woke us up to our own individuality and our own power was because of perpetrations by individuals who were working for an organization in a position of authority, right? Individuals part of an organization in a position of authority. That's ostensibly the main trauma cause of anybody in our modern society to a large degree. And so how do you organize to defeat such an entity without organizing your own group of people with your own authority? And the answer is, anytime you do try, all of these people are going to get these triggers allied, because as soon as they feel that I'm not an individual anymore, as soon as they feel that there's a party line and I can't express what I think, as soon as they feel that there's actions I need to take but I'm not allowed to, they get completely psychologically schismed. They can't do that because that's the thing that frickin' traumatized them in the first place. And we don't want a society that is run by big organizations and people with vested positions of power and something like that, do we? We don't. I want to be able to talk to my prime minister like I'm talking to you guys, just sitting around having a chat and talking about some important things, right? That with mutual respect, right? That's how life should be in every interaction. Authority is an illusion that needs to be purged from mankind's consciousness stream. The only kind of authority that actually really have any value is the authority of a parent over a child, and your authority over yourself and your actions. Those are the only two types that really have any value for me.
So I agree with that. I just think that it's also a tragic lacking of creativity and innovation, because that's really what the systems are designed to do most, is to keep us from being able to envision. And by way of envisioning, co-creating in the aggregate within what you deem the hologram, I'd use the descriptor of a dream of angels. And it's sort of like the convergence between heaven and hell so that we can learn from our shadows. And it is still ultimately rooted in the same sacred geometry and modality of expression. But in order to go about doing the best thing, yeah, we need to escape authority, but we also have to have the ingenuity to conceive of a different way of being.
Yeah, and that's the whole idea behind, if you wanted to define New Zealanders, ingenuity. Okay, and this is something that's bred into us, because when you're on an island in the South Pacific in the 1800s and you needed a part for a tractor or anything, if you needed anything, you were fucked. So you had to do everything yourself. You had to come up with some way, somehow, anyway, anyhow, to do what you needed to do, because help was not coming. All right, this is what we call Kiwi ingenuity, or locally known as the number 8 wire mentality. When you're purchasing metal wire out of the hardware store, you have certain thicknesses, and the number 8 is a fairly robust, thick kind of wire. You know, it's not going to freaking break. It can stand up to a reasonable amount of tension. So that when New Zealanders had a farmer who had a broken tractor, a piece that was missing, or some kind of cog or whatever, we would actually use number 8 wire to fix and jerry-rig our farm equipment so that we could keep farming for the 6 months it would take a ship to get here with the replacement piece of equipment, right? So that mentality is quite, I think, most demonstrably personalized when it comes to the Wellington protests that we had. And there's now a new dynamic where people, when they refer to Wellington, it doesn't refer to the capital, New Zealand, it refers to that protest specifically. Outside Parliament, on their lawns, in tents, for months, dancing, chanting, asking the politicians to come out, all 120 of them, not a single one ever did. And in fact, they had the police spray old ladies in the face, break old men's sternums, punch old men in the face so that they pass out immediately, getting knocked out and fall face first onto concrete. LRAD weapons, radiation weapons, spraying in the face with some kind of chemical mixture that caused people to go blind, and traumatized people and made them feel sick for months afterwards. Riot shields, rubber bullets. And what were they using it on? They were using it on a group of very, very diverse New Zealanders who didn't want to be mandated. They were using this on a very, very interesting, colourful cast of characters who were resisting the police by chanting peace and love. Okay? Just as the campaign with myself and Billy TK proved politically that there is absolutely no solution that's ever going to come from the genuine political process, the protest proved that there is never, ever going to be a solution that comes from peaceful protest either. They've made that abundantly clear. You will never be represented and you will never be listened to. What are you going to do now? And that's the question that we're all faced with right now. What do you do with somebody who will not meet with you, will not listen to you, and is trying to kill you and will not stop?
You engage in immediate economic warfare with them, and you stop utilizing their currency, and you stop utilizing the mechanisms by which their currency allows for more control over your life. You understand that there's no privacy, there's just operational security. Like, there's a bunch of things that you can do, just a little bits at a time, because I understand that people can't disengage immediately from the freaking Pan-Arctic Basin financial system. I get that. I do. But you could do little bits at a time. There's a whole bunch of other things too, but go ahead.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you take fluoride out of your water that you drink at home, for one. You turn the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth off of your devices and you go hardwired, for two. You take the GMOs out of your diet and you go organic, for three, and so on and so forth. There's all of these practices that are in your physical environment where if you haven't gotten those sorted, it doesn't matter what kind of thinking that you're doing. It doesn't matter what kind of meditation you're doing if you're being irradiated, if you've got cancer-causing compounds in your diet and stuff like that. All of those things are kind of superfluous when it comes to that. They might help with the fact that you're dealing with that, but it's not a be-all and end-all solution. And, as men, solutions is what we're all about. We don't like hearing women complain, so we solve the problems that they're complaining about.
And then they complain about that.
Yeah,
right? Because they don't want you to solve the problem. They just want you to listen.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Just like the guy who invented paracetamol, which has been used as a pain reliever for people the world over. The reason why he spent countless hours in his lab and went sleepless nights and things like that, it wasn't for money. It was because his daughter and his wife had really painful periods. And he knew that if he worked hard enough, he might be able to develop something that could help ease their pain. Okay? Men do things for love. All of us, even if we're not in love with you, we're in love with something. We might be in love with the idea of freedom. We might be in love with the idea of happiness or whatever it is. And we are definitely, all of us, in love with pussy. Now, the point here is, if I may be so bold, is that
the piano music sent me, man. It really did.
But nevertheless, the point I was so arousingly raised was that it is what you love and what you do that really matters, especially when you're doing who you love. And I think somebody really out there, they've got this idea that what they've got to do is go after what they hate. I hate this guy. I'm going to go after him. I hate this woman. I'm going to go after them. I hate this freaking system. I'm going to go after it. Wrong. Fuck off. All right? You never destroy these people by necessarily trying to destroy them. Okay? If that's not your skill set. Okay? There are many people in this world, men who are trained to kill and destroy. Okay? And I was having this conversation with my friend the other night about the two types of men. Okay? There's the type of men who see the predator and they immediately leap to protect the women and children from the predator. And then there's the kind of men who see the predator and go out and fucking kill it. Okay? And that's the thing. There's a different stripe in some guys that make them more able to deal with threats permanently. All right? And some who are more capable of healing and protecting others, you know. And I'm not one of those killing guys. I'm the healer. I'm the protector. So I want to leave all of that icky business to the guys who want to do it. I remember I was talking with Kevin Annett, who unearthed some of the genocide that was taking place in some Canadian churches with the native children. And he was talking about this concept like the evils that are being done and the people that...
Okay. Well, he
All right.
disappeared.
All right. Oh, there he is. Okay. Yeah.
Am I still here? Okay, I'm back. Sorry. All right, sorry about that, guys.
They wiped you out there.
So yeah, as Kevin Annett was kind of alluding me to, there's this ancient sort of principle in the northern Canadian tribes, and what it is that a man is not supposed to raise his voice to a child above that of a clap of thunder. Okay? And the reason why he shouldn't is because there's a group of men who don't live in the village. They live far away from it. And they do this deliberately. And if they are told that a man has done this in the village, they will return and they'll take him out into the snow and he won't be seen again. There's certain types of men who aren't good in society, but they help maintain its order. They prevent the threats from growing worse. And that's what has been basically systematically destroyed and psychologically castrated over the periods of the last few decades of programming of mankind through the mass media. This real capacity that men have to go out and physically solve a threat and make sure that it's no longer a threat anymore. Right? Like, oh, this is wrong. I don't like this idea. This is toxic masculinity. It's like, no, it's not. It's the reason why you're still alive today. Because at some point, your ancestor was struggling with an incredibly dangerous threat, and some guy, not a woman, got up and fucking killed it. That's where we're at.
It's an interesting...
It's just mankind hasn't changed. In thousands of years, you start listening to Stoic philosophy from Marcus Aurelius and Senecus. They already knew what was up. The mankind's mind hasn't changed, and our nature hasn't changed at all. Who we always were is who we are already. okay, and the old ways of fighting with each other and being bitchy and so on and so forth. This was happening thousands of years ago. We haven't fucking evolved one iota. So to think of us as
Okay.
more cavemen, and just one final note on this. Public speaking is mankind's biggest fear, because back in the day, if you said something the tribe didn't like, that tribe would kill you, either by directly killing you or by casting you out and you'd die in the cold by yourself. All right. And that's why people are afraid to speak up. And they shouldn't be, because without those people speaking up, everybody would have died in the cold and all their resources would have run out, and nobody would have known how to breed or raise children or make anything that matters that serves human life.
I'll say this though, we're into a couple generations now of we were talking earlier about how men are kind of hardwired to solve problems, and that can sometimes frustrate women who would rather you sit there and just listen, and take part in a conversation about it rather than solve the problem. We're a couple of generations into men who have been raised exclusively by women. Men who really don't have necessarily a conditioned, you know what I mean, a nurtured drive to solve problems, but rather just to absorb and then passively support whatever it is they're being talked at about. So that's why you see such a hard narrative against toxic masculinity, and also why you've got the manosphere, that's the fucking Andrew Tates and all of those clowns that say shit that Marcus Aurelius said, and everyone since, and everyone with two brain cells to rub together is figured out at some point in their life. But because the algorithm is telling them it's new or important because this person said it, then the people who have just been taught to listen, not necessarily think for themselves, only respond with passive support, are going to go, oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm going to tie into both of your thoughts, if I may, because they're both true. Vinny, insofar as the side of humanity where we go out there and basically take care of business at a certain threshold, it's absolutely true. But I think what the situation we're facing right now is that's not necessarily strategically advantageous for what we need to do.
Exactly.
So there's layers of predators. The basic bitch predator, which can still be really formidable and horrifying, is the one who hides in the grass and tracks your ass. The layer of predator above that is the one who planted the grass. They created the terrarium that those smaller predators exist in so that they can more successfully track their prey. Beyond that is a level of predator that most people don't even fucking know exists. And that's a different word altogether. It's called praetor. Now, praetor is a Roman unit. What they were responsible for doing was organizing the games that the public then was entertained by. They determined who lived, who died, who laughed, who cried. A praetor is a kind of intelligence that if you ever actually read Crowley's work, he talks about tapping into that kind of thing. It is the energetic resonance that then uses the human species as vessels to play us against ourselves and one another. There's that age-old adage of the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. I don't think that's true. I think the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing himself he's not the devil. So right now, it's one of those things where you can look at that spectrum of predators and understand that, oh yeah, we got to worry about all of them. But really, to get the upper hand, it's about ascending them. And that's where I'd say we're at insofar as the energetic resonance of healing as men, and at the same time, not just listening to women talk about problems, helping them understand the praetor level of things. Once we do that, we definitely change things.
That's the what Jedward Griffin was talking about. He talked about his auntie who knew what sex a cat was just by looking at it. And he was perplexed for decades until one day she told him that, oh, the females have a thin face and the males have a wide face. And he's like, oh, fuck. You know, it's something so simple, right? And he believes that something so simple will occur to somebody in the future about how to solve the problem of the New World Order, how to solve the problem of totalitarianism, psychopathy, or something like that. It'll just be so simple. And it'll come up. It'll come up all of a sudden, and nobody will really freaking see it coming. And I think that's a very encouraging thought.
Oh yeah, I think I'm going to be that guy, by the way. So we'll touch base in 5 years, see how that goes.
Yeah, you might come number 2 to me, brother. Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
You know
I'll
what,
reach out
man?
to you
You
later,
know what?
and we'll see.
I gotta say, it is nice every once in a while to just dust your nuts off and lay them on the table, and I
Yeah.
appreciate it
I'm
when
not gonna break
somebody's
the
willing
table,
to do
Steve,
that.
no.
You know, I
Well,
appreciate
it's
it.
a difference because you're educated in a different way to me. You're educated by reading those books. I'm educated by the people who wrote them. Kind of thing, like directly having conversations with them. Not all of them, of course, that sort of thing. But I'm sure a number of the books that you've read, I've had interviews with these people, and so I don't know what the difference is between those who are well read and those who are well conversed. But I think that we each see certain things. It's called the Pareto distribution, the otherwise known as the 80-20 rule, like how you get 80% of your crops out of 20% of your land, how you wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time, but also 20% of the information contains 80% of the enlightenment. So I was sort of like doing shortcutting and stuff like that, and then networking and talking with all of these people rather than going through their books and doing all the nitty gritty. I just have a conversation with them, and maybe I'm doing the wrong thing, or maybe that's not good enough, or something like that. Because I've talked to a lot of people who are well read, and I feel like I'm on a peer level with them because a lot of the authors that they've read the complete thoughts of, I've been able to complete those thoughts with those people in conversation. So I look at things in a radically different way to somebody who's well read, but I like to think that I'm at least capable of competing on a intellectual and level when it comes to wrestling with these great concepts that all of these works of both fiction and non-fiction really bring out into humanity. And maybe the reason for that is because of the word. All right, the Buddhists believe that everything came into existence with a sound, and the Christians believe that at first there was the word. And I think that this is how knowledge is really passed down, is through conversations with those people around those campfires in the most intense way. And it's a shame that these ancient people sometimes all their thoughts are all we've got left of them is in books. We can't converse with them and challenge those thoughts with them and see what they'd say.
No, I totally agree. I'll just put it this way. I do both. So I'm well read and I do the firsthand conversations because the spoken word speaks more than the etchings on a page. And that's one of those things where ultimately it is that passing of things in that sage-like way that is conducive to the better day and age that we're all trying to co-create. And that's ultimately what the culmination of any particular avenue that you take is. It's what you make out of it. It's what you create from it. So what the best of anything is all of those worlds convening together to a particular end, which is something that solves the motherfucking problem.
Yeah. And again, we're going back to our male need to solve problems. This reminds me of Dr. Sam Shea, and man, I wish you guys could be familiar with his work, but oh my goodness, it's all been taken down because he's like, oh man, so one thing of that presentation wasn't right, so I'm taking it down. And I'm like, dude, all the stuff in there was so good. This guy was the one who enlightened me as to the fact why men and women die different kinds of death. Men tend to, more than women, die short, violent deaths because we sometimes do things without thinking. Women, more than men, tend to die slow, painful deaths because they think about things and don't do anything about it.
Yeah, there's a lot to that. There's it's not a constant, you know. There's certainly longevity in the fellas to a degree, but you could also probably find an overlap where those are people who took substantially less risks and who played it way safer. You do get your occasional lucky bastard who dies at a ripe old age, cigarette in one hand, whiskey jar in the other. You know, good Lord willing, getting a blowjob while he's at it. There is that.
Lemmy died like
right.
Did you
Lemmy.
ever see?
Yeah.
Did you ever see that movie, Death Becomes Her? And Bruce Willis.
Probably once.
They keep dying. Yeah.
Okay, no. If you're a truther and you haven't seen that movie again since becoming a truther, fucking watch it again. There's a whole secret cult of people that are the living dead in Hollywood who all take care of their bodies and all of that kind of stuff because they know they're going to live forever and that everything that they do to their body is going to damage it and it's going to fucking eventually break down and wear out unless they fucking take care of themselves. And nevertheless, the thing that reminded me is kind of like when you die, you want to go in this way. Bruce Willis gets called in to do an emergency plastic surgery for a guy who died having a heart attack, making love to his new 18-year-old wife. And the guy's got this huge fucking grin on his face and they can't fucking get him to stop grinning. So they have to use plastic surgery to put his mouth back in place so that he'll actually be okay for the funeral, right? And that's what you were saying, you know, that's how we all want to go out, isn't it?
But leave the grin. Don't allow some hag mortician to deny that seems sacrilegious on a bunch of different levels. It's just a little, flat out disrespectful. It really does. It really does. That's some disrespect right there.
Here's the thing. The whole concepts that we're dealing with here, I think, as men in the modern society, is that we just feel like we're under attack, and we fucking are. You know, in every single way, we're constantly under attack, and all we want to do is just be comfortable and maybe.
Oh, yep. Man, there we go. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. All we want to do is like just have a beer with the guys, you know, have a jam, create a song, maybe build something or craft something or something like that. You know, we just want to hang out with our mates and actually make something that matters, that exists here in the material universe that other people can see and enjoy. That's all we really want to do. And that's why we're creating this radio show right now, because after it, we've got something to show for it, you know, something that people can appreciate.
Yeah, I've said similar shit for years now, and I usually punctuate that with I would prefer to die fishing off of my own deck, you know, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen that way, but I'm trying, you know, and yeah, I would much rather. Do you think? That's why we're doing the thing in July too, so that fucking people can come and hang out, listen to music, and bring a couple of friends out that might need to listen to some more, you know, grown up, nuanced conversations without a whole bunch of parameters or labels being thrown at them. Is because I would rather be doing stuff like hanging out, building shit, shooting guns, fucking going fishing. You think I don't want to fucking be on a dirt bike right now, dude? Something like that. Like that sounds fun as fuck, you know. But we're doing this until I could do stuff like that, and hopefully at some point there's enough people watching the show where the value for value system kicks in to where we could do both at the same time. Oh
well,
my god,
another
that'd be
thing.
wild.
I was asked by Calvin Alp of Counterspin, who basically they succeeded me as the #1 truth platform in New Zealand, and quite rightly so. They had a great guy, Justin, who worked professionally out of Hong Kong with a media production company, who basically zhuzhed all of their stuff up and made it look really broadcast quality and absolutely beautiful. They owe a lot to him, and I carved him an award. The 2024 Exposing Scumbaggery Awards for Counterspin Media, and I gave it to Justin at a fundraiser they were doing, and I carved another one for Free NZ Media, my mate Jono, and gave him the award as well, with all carved up, all lacquered, with a keyboard nailed to it, with no escape key, just to remind them that this job is for life. There is no escape. and we had this sort of discussion later about Q and how it's getting people into this sort of, eat popcorn, trust the plan, the white hats are taking care of everything, we can just lax back and stuff like that. And it's like, dude, something's got to be done about that. And Justin was thinking about doing something about it, and I was just like, here's my responsibility right now. Do it. Okay? Because you're really onto it. You know what you're doing, and you'll be able to freaking wake people up to that freaking scam. Okay? It doesn't matter how many people you offend, even if it's the people you're working for, who profess to believe in this kind of angels are going to come down and save you, who are really powerful billionaires, you know? It's just like, dude, this encouragement that I like to give to other people who are doing what I do, I think is a really important part of me, because I don't think I've ever really done a show with anybody who I didn't want to give the time to just express who they are, how they are, you know, just that complete openness, that relaxed sensation that you could just truly be yourself on my broadcast. And that's because that's how I am in real life. I just want you to be yourself, and I'll accept you, warts and all, just so long as you're not some kind of lying, frickin' disingenuous person who doesn't know how to have a good time and doesn't know how to contribute.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. We were talking yesterday, the thing that, and a lot recently, I guess, over the last several shows, and years, but the whole pretending thing just bugs the shit out of me. It always does. And there's degrees of authenticity that most people are actually comfortable with. I've found this out. You know what I mean? Where you can express your genuine opinion about a number of different things, but you can't fully express your opinion. And this is representative in where we are in the media space too, because there's still people who make their primary existence off of YouTube, and they know what they can and can't say there. And so it carries over into when they're on different platforms where they still, to measurable degrees, self-censor, because they're already in self-censor mode because of YouTube. Maybe they're like, oh, we can have a more, deeper conversation on Rumble, but they still have solid lines that are never going to be crossed. And these aren't just, controlled opportunist people like we were talking about earlier. These are people coming into the space who only know one way to do it because they've only been watching one post Gamergate or whatever form of YouTube their awake life. And so they're getting woke up to diluted advertising driven shows that are showing them a very, very narrow path towards whatever enlightenment is, which is usually support of one political party or another, voting in a system that cannot nor will not ever represent them.
Mm. And that's the thing about it is like I self-censor on my show because I'm still using Facebook and YouTube, and they'll delete me off of those platforms if I don't. So what happens is I will let my guests speak however they want. So if they start saying things that I know I'm going to get censored for and what have you, I just let it roll. I end the live show and I delete that Facebook and I delete that YouTube. Still got the Twitch, and then I upload the Rumble, the BitChute, and the Odyssey, so that people who are following on those platforms can still get to hear that conversation that was live on YouTube. So basically, it comes down to the guest, whether the degree of whether or not I self-censor to a degree. Like I'll have on, I think, people who are talking about the medical history of viruses and stuff like that. That got taken out, and it was a great discussion. You know, awesome freaking show, and people can still watch it. And so, yeah, the guest really determines the level of self-censorship I show to a large degree. If they want to go there, let's go there. But I don't initiate it. You know, kind of like that. That drunk 16-year-old girl who's kind of like unsure of herself and doesn't want to initiate the first move.
We're not allowed on the platforms that you can't say that shit on in the first place, and so it's, you know, my opinion about the whole thing has always been I've been kicked out of better bars by bigger bouncers, and I'm not fucking leaving until you make me. And it's just kind of where we're at we're always trying to find new ways to get, you know, onto new places. We're always trying to find new ways to reach people. We're going back to low tech stuff. Got a bunch of, you know, stickers and shit on the way to help out with that. It's just, I don't know, man. I know that we're not going to overthrow the entire oligarchy by telling dick jokes at 7 o'clock in the morning. I know that. I've told you guys from day one, I'm trying to form a more complete picture of how the world works. You know, if you guys want to do that in the morning for a few hours and fucking get,
well,
you know, go ahead.
Can I just make an observation here? Yesterday, I had a really good morning. You know, I've had a lot of bad mornings this last week, but yesterday I had a really good morning. I got up, I was relaxed, I did a bit of working out, did a bit of washing and some cleaning up of the dishes and stuff like that. Did a bit of work, and I felt great, right? Because you got to start off your day in a good headspace. You know, you got to be relaxed if you want to have a productive day. And I think that you guys really do that for your audience. You make their day more productive because you give them a way to wake up the right way.
I appreciate that. And that is a very astute observation so early into the format.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only took me 3 hours and 3 minutes and 3 seconds to say it.
Sometimes it takes people, you know, 3 episodes. Sometimes they get about 10 minutes in and they're like, the fuck did these guys say? I'm out of here.
Yeah. Well, that's why I do my show and show like I do, because anybody who's on the level will immediately be like, cool, I like it, I'm in. And anybody who's not on the level will immediately be repulsed by it, so I don't have to have their comments darken my fucking chat room.
Yeah. Our buddy Jamie Deluxe has a old school, you know, 1990s TV warning thing, and he's like, I smoke and I say fuck a lot. But I've accepted my shortcomings. Yeah. I hope you have too.
Well, I remember something Marcus Aurelius said is that when somebody's saying bad things about you, okay, how you're supposed to respond is to say, Well, they must not be aware of all my other flaws. Otherwise, they would have mentioned them too.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when Zelensky tried that. This is true. The president of Ukraine, they were going at him for being Jewish, and he said, "Oh, well, that's not even in the top 20 of my flaws." He tried that. Yeah.
I'm sure it worked
And
for some people.
right, being an actual puppet, that might be his biggest flaw. Although trusting the hand up his ass that's puppeting him might ultimately be his biggest flaw. I think. Yeah.
Well, one can
Yeah.
only hope.
They just got
You know,
absorbed into NATO yesterday. That's the only reason I'm bringing that up.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess we can't all be winners, can we?
Wait, they did get absorbed, or they just
They
announced
did.
that
Yeah,
again
Jens
that they're going to do it?
was up there. I got a clip. I know we're about ready to
I
wrap.
thought he had said, as soon as we, finalize.
Oh, was it
It
more
seemed like they were
more of a tease? Sounded pretty.
more
Well, they
of,
got paperwork. Is that going to get lost
just
in
to
the
let
shuffle?
you know, it's still moving along.
Okay, well, it's
so
confirmation
let's war
that
it out
Ukraine
anytime.
will be, and yeah,
The
which is
33rd.
more than the right. They got to give them. They got to give them a little bit more. We just gave them $61 billion.
Yeah.
Right, man.
Just gotta
Why
train
does
them into
Someone
NATO.
said go on Instagram and search Ukraine and Kiev and stuff and watch those videos.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Seems like it's pretty awesome over there.
Did you see? There's a
money's being
minister in
spent very
Ukraine
well.
driving around a brand new Rolls Royce. He's
Yeah.
the first European to receive this particular edition of a Rolls Royce. Now that's stunting on him. That is, man.
Ukraine's rightful place is in NATO. Ukraine will become a member of NATO. The work we are undertaking now puts you on an irreversible path towards NATO
Okay.
membership. So that when the time is right,
Okay.
Ukraine.
Okay. So what we need you to do first, Ukraine, is cup the balls a little better. Need you to spend more time on the shaft, if you will. Don't neglect the tip.
Changed or swapped out.
If you get teethy, vicious, we will slap you. Yeah,
Okay.
Jens. Okay.
What a great show, guys.
Vinny, yeah, man. Thanks so much for coming on. You are an absolute legend. We appreciate you hanging out and being generous with your time like this. And tell all of the good people, if they're not familiar with you, where they can get a hold of you.
Okay, you can get a hold of me in Auckland, New Zealand, and my contact details are on the website, thevinnyeastwoodshow.com. That's Vinny with a Y because it's the most important question, and Eastwood, like, go ahead, make my news. And you can follow me on YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, Odyssey, BitChute, Twitch, and the One Great Work Network. I have a show on Sundays, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Ground Zero Radio. There we go. Just making all that stuff up. It's currently past 5 a.m. or something like that, local New Zealand Standard Time at the moment. So if the if the rhymes committed by Vinny Eastwood. I'd like to just say thank you guys very much for daring to have such a prolific outcast and shady character as myself with my unsavory ways to taint your broadcast. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. Anytime. Vinny Eastwood, everybody. Thanks again. And yeah, do come back and see us.
Yeah, man. You send me an invite, I'll be here.
Word. All right. Well, that's solid. Yeah, do that thing, everybody. And I'm gonna thank the producers. And we can get the heck out of here. I know I got a full day going on. Thanks for pulling up, everybody. Thanks for hanging out and being a part of the show. We do love the hell out of you, and we cannot do the damn thing without you. It's a value for value gig here. And if you're not familiar with the value for value system, this is how it works. Every time you see us, whether it's, this show Monday through Thursday live, the independent review on Friday, all of the TNP universe shows that are currently running and will probably get added, Poppy's Field Project tonight, all that comes to you for free. We're never gonna paywall shit. It's just not gonna happen. You don't have to subscribe to this to get that. There's no ad breaks or ad reads. There's no paid sponsorships or anything like that. It's you. If you dig what we're doing, you see value in the conversations that we're having, stuff that we talk about, whatever that is, whatever it looks like, send it this way, and that's how we can do the damn thing. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can participate. There's a couple of things that you definitely need assistance with. Most importantly, are time, talent, and treasure. Time and talent, because there's just a couple of us trying to make everything run. Everybody's stretched pretty thin. There are not enough hours in the day or available resources for us to do it on our lonesome. So, most important thing you could ever conceivably do is share the freaking show. Share the show. Share the show, share the show, share the show, because the platforms that we're on fucking hate us. Social media doesn't like us. So unless you guys are talking about us to the people that new people don't really find us. If you're decent at making clips, throw them out there. Tag us if you want to. If you want us to throw them on the clip channel, email them to the show, amwakeup@protonmail.com, or Shelly, amwakeup@protonmail.com. On the treasure end, all of the direct donate links are in the description. Those are 100% crucial, as that's what allows us to do stuff like buy food or drive places, take our kids to school and shit like that. There were at least one or two that I saw this morning, and there was somebody on the Gibson Go as well. So thank you very much for that. Let's see. Mary Jane, appreciate you. And Nick, thank you very much. I think that was that. I'm not 100% sure. And I did see a Super Ray or two in the rack fin. Yeah. Come on, fucker. There you go. W Smith 84, appreciate you. Torches and pitchforks, thank you very much. Vinny's great. Can we keep him, Dad? Can we keep him? That's adorable. You guys rock. Yeah, you guys, the Teace, remind people why they should all be sharing Conspiracy Synergy with all of their friends. I forget a bunch of stuff too. Third Eye Carnival early bird tickets are on sale now through June 18th. You can get 12 bands, half a dozen speakers, all at the Blowback Art Gallery immediately after the Truth Art show, which is all part of the extended autonomy universe and connected to the Richard Grove family of what it's rad. All of that, if you get the right now for both days, is $30, which is fucking cheap. You should do this. It's not going to be like that next where when more of you show up than expected and we go, holy crap, we have to make this a little bit bigger, therefore justify paying the musicians better. So get in and on it now while we're giving it away. Link for that is at anartistcollective.com. Click on the Third Eye Carnival tab. Us, Charlie Robinson, Lindsay Charbin, Scott Armstrong, whole bunch of musicians. Yeah, merriment will be made. Do that damn thing. Teace, please.
Yeah, so what I do is I'm an artist, a filmmaker, and I've been doing the research for this in firsthand activism for about 15 or more years. And in observing the truth community, I noticed that there was a significant discrepancy in knowledge base, in ability to go out there and really do it the right way. And most of all, we were up against the emotional hurdles of outreach tools for our friends and family. Because a lot of the time when you reach out to people who aren't aware of this kind of stuff yet, you don't necessarily have to baby them, but humor helps a whole lot. visual accompaniments help a whole lot. So I created a show called Conspiracy Synergy, which shows off the best of the alternative media, and it also gives a quick encapsulative overview as a primer to get them into the world so that they can then handle shows and conversations like this. So if you know anyone who's just starting to wake up and they need a quick trailer for reality, that's what Conspiracy Synergy is. It's emotionally palatable. It allows you to have all of that work already done for you so that you can get them in the know and then have them on the go. Because otherwise, they're going to be led astray. They're going to be latched onto things like Q. And it's just a beautiful tool that can help them get into the best of the best. And once again, Vinny is on that list of one of the best alternative content creators from the first episode. And Steve and Chris show up later on. And it's all of us coming together in a way that can show people that, whoa, this isn't just a few fringe people. This is an entire universe. And in due time, it is eventually going to be the defining characteristic of a better future. So if you haven't checked it out yet, go to conspiracysynergy.com, look at all the references, start checking it out. It's a really great tool, and it's all up there for free for you.
Hell yeah. Slim's back tomorrow. And I don't think anybody else is coming in. Let's see. Independent Review Friday, Saturday night, Anarchy Uniquely on Saturday night. Mr. Tom Cooper and various hooligans. I'll probably be doing the Critical Hour panel. We don't need to do any of that. It's Wednesday. Vinny, thanks so much again, my friend.
Cheers, brother.
Anyone who wants to send Chris large amounts of money so that he can cease the extortion that Iowa has levied upon him is more than welcome to. Get all those direct donate links are in the description.
Yeah, well, for those of us who've been in the game a long time, signing up for regular automatic payments, $5 a week, $10 a month, whatever it is, all those tiny little things, they actually really add up to a lot. And that means that guys like us are able to, if we need to, take a mental health day, you know, or take a holiday or something like that, so that we can actually continue providing you the things that we're doing, because we burn the candle at both ends sometimes, and we just burn out. And the only way we're actually ever really able to come back and continue doing this, I've seen a lot of people come and go because they're too afraid to ask for help in this manner. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if you do like the fact that there really isn't any agenda there, we just want to help, and we just want to do our thing. And if you enjoy it, and if it's helped you, it'll help others. So help us continue to do it.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And yeah, man, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out. Good luck to us all.